Billy, traffic was super bad today, so you were able to miss everything that broke out before you got here on just hockey enthusiasms and
oh man, I missed out.
heat calamity, and there were a lot of people bouncing into each other, yelling at each other, and we're 4 games into the playoffs. And,
well, playoffs are over for one of the teams.
That is correct. That's part of what's happening. And the other thing that's happening, though, is that after a really magical, like truly magical, seems like the loudest sound I've ever heard in South Florida, 11 seconds of Panthers hockey, there was a brawl in here in which a bunch of people were arguing about whether Marchand had a good game last night or not. And it was just a strange argument to break out, and I think it's because everybody's crazy.
It's weird. I mean, everybody needs to kind of keep their heads on straight and realize this is going exactly as the script foretold. Panthers covered last night, as we said they would. Mm-hmm. Panthers are up 3-1 in this series, as we expected them to be. Heat were out in the most lopsided playoff series in the history of the NBA, as we were told yesterday would be the case by Greg Cody.
Crazy.
Things are happening exactly as we said they would, so I don't know why people are getting crazy. Like, this is level-headed. This is the script, and we're following it.
Even crazier, Greg Cody was in the building last night for the game and stayed the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Greg Cody said, as the resident South Florida historian, that that's the worst playoff game of any kind played in South Florida since Dan Marino retired his final game because he was losing 62-7 in Jacksonville in a playoff game. That's the most apocalyptic thing, and beyond that, I guess probably a lot of people will be here for tears today. That feels like the end of all things. It doesn't mean that they won't go get a Whale or Antetokounmpo or Embiid or somebody, but it felt like the whole thing collapsed as you watched the Celtics. You know, they were even with the Celtics. The Celtics have expanded beyond them, and the Heat are now a 10 seed. And that's what happens when you allow 10 seeds to play a team that won 60 games during the season. A 10 seed shouldn't be in the playoffs. Why? Because it's a 10 seed.
Dan, they tipped the ball off and they were down 20. Like, I saw the ref go like this, throw the ball up in the air, and I looked at the scoreboard and it was 20-5.
I'll tell you how much of the game I watched last night. I tuned in. It was 30-8, and I turned it off.
No. Your parents were there.
They were. My father was caught on the Jumbotron eating.
During the bongos segment. You know, like they put the fake bongos on the screen and everyone's supposed to play the bongos. Your father was eating during
My
that.
father often gets caught eating by the Jumbotron because he's often eating. Mike, are you okay? Because you came off, you flew through the room, all right? You yelled bleep Pearl Jam and Talladega's the best. Yeah. And so you're a bit of a power cable today.
I'm only going to speak when spoken to today. I feel like everyone's trying to trigger me and get a rise out of me, and I have thoughts, I have opinions, but I'm gonna ration my reps today. So
okay,
thank you for including me on the show.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
All right, well, look, we're 4 games in, and I heard for the first time in our history as a show, somebody was accused of chirping, and so now I knew the hockey playoffs had really begun because. Well, I'm going to reveal my source. You were accusing someone else.
Don't say that part. Don't the dirty dong part. Don't do that one.
No, I didn't. I was of chirping.
The blank in a dirty dong is not something I would say. I don't use that kind of jocular language. And I knew it as soon as I said, allegedly what? Didn't say anything at all. Like, Dan's going to reveal this, and this is going to be a bad look for me.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Zaslow will fit right in around here. He's already arriving late to work on important days. But I did hear him as he was late for work. He was very busy talking to the starting lineup on NBA radio with Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine. So he was busy doing another job that made him late for this one. So he'll fit right in here. He's very excited about everything that happened that was Panther related last night, as he should be. But I begin with what Greg Cody foretold.
Oh my gosh.
The most lopsided basketball series of all time. Ernie Johnson said this might be the worst game I've watched. Do you know how much basketball that man has watched? You have Cody saying it's the worst loss since Marino goes out 62-7. You've got Donovan Mitchell saying we had to finish our breakfast, which is just a great quote. They came in here up 3-0, and at the half, they're up by 1,000,000 points, and he's telling the team we've got to finish our breakfast. We got lunch and dinner later in these playoffs. Let's get rid of breakfast, these sausages. But the thing that happened that was my single lowest moment in the last 15 years of Heat basketball is hearing on the radio laughing broadcasters of the Cleveland Cavaliers saying, Ty Jerome hits a jump shot at the buzzer from half court, and they're laughing. And to make it 111-63, and then this was the lowest moment. Ty Jerome, a typhoon in Miami. And I'm like, that's it. The Heat are done. 15 years of wonderful Heat, done, over. Dies in a typhoon as a 10 seed.
Shout out to Tim Alcorn, play-by-play man for Cleveland Cavaliers radio. No, Dan, it was incredible because you mentioned that play, and somehow the Cavs extended the lead after that. Every single quarter, it got worse. We kept waiting for, like, okay, you're up a zillion, and then at some point, like, the bench guys get in, and then the bench guys are like, oh, I got to prove to Coach Spo I deserve to play. And it got worse. We were joking last night, said it took the Heat getting down 50 for Duncan Robinson and Jaime Jaquez to get in. And then they managed to play worse than the guys that they replaced.
So this is the historic stuff that happened. The 122 points, the largest difference ever in a 4-game series. The 122-point differential between the Cavs and the Heat. The 55-point loss, it's fifth worst in the history of the sport. And it's the first time that a team has lost back-to-back games by more than 30, playoff games by more than 30 points. And they did it at home. Like, it's not just that it happened. It's the first time it's ever happened, but it happened to them at home. So that is the worst punctuation on a Heat season there has ever been.
Dan, they were down 60 at one point. It took Nikola Jovic having like a hot streak at the end. He hit a couple threes, had a putback layup. That's what got it to 55. At one point, they were down 60, which would have been the largest playoff loss in NBA history. And also, it was approaching the worst loss in NBA history, which I'll give you 3 guesses. Who has that one? Who has that record? It's a local team. They lost by 68 because I heard Eric Reed talk about it on the air. He was talking about, I remember that game.
1991.
He went into great detail how they lost by 68.
Do you know the indignity and insult it is that Ernie Johnson has called as much basketball as he has, and he says that that's the worst thing that he's ever seen?
Can we remember this feeling, though? Like, can we bottle up this feeling that we're feeling today and remember this in the offseason when there will be trade speculation and everyone under the sun will be fighting to get to the Heat, and every superstar, Giannis, will want to come here, and Kevin Durant will want to come here, and everyone will want to come here in our heads. And we will decide, you know what? We don't want to part ways with Alec Burks to get, Kevin Durant. We don't want to part ways with Davion Mitchell because we don't want to get rid of Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Like, can we remember today and remember this team just wasn't good enough, and you need to get rid of some pieces to bring people in?
Okay, so last night feels bad for the Typhoon, and then you watch Jimmy Butler limp through a playoff game, and he scores 27 points after you've just watched Bam and Tyler Hero do what they did, 17 points on 23 shots, but can you put up on the screen, please, or just put up behind me where Spoelstra is right now? Can you guys just put up on the screen my father being caught in mid-bite on the Jumbotron last night? This has happened to him a handful of times. And what is the level of shame here? Because, Jeremy, you are a resident aficionado of putting your fingers in your mouth when you have cheese crumbs on them.
Yeah, but his fingers aren't in his mouth in the same way. He's clearly eating some sort of food that's in his hand, and so that's just a clean exchange as opposed to what I did, which was just like really disgustingly scrape salt and vinegar seasoning off of my fingers.
I'm pretty good at this. That's a cookie he's eating. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, that must
pretty
be
clearly.
a cookie.
The grip, right?
Yeah,
right
solid
here.
cookie grip.
Zaslow, you can come in now that you've had makeup done. And, Billy, just out of curiosity, as everything was going on last night, were you dying with the Dodgers beating your Marlins in extra innings? Were you able to last until the very last embers of the evening?
No. West Coast, I'm not about. I'm not about the West Coast baseball games when I'm on the East Coast. I'm
Even
fine.
if it's the Dodgers, even if your Marlins are scoring and scrappy?
No. I have no intention of watching the Dodgers pummel the Marlins. I saw the Dane train hit a grand slam last night, which is great. Yeah, but extra innings on the West Coast game? No. These West Coast trips, they do a number on me, Dan. First Seattle, now Los Angeles. Let's get back to the Eastern time.
All right, let's
zone.
put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you want to watch extra innings West Coast baseball? Just yes or no is the question.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to Zaslow. He is late. How did it go on the starting lineup with Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine? Where I heard Scalabrine say Giannis for 60 tonight. He expects Giannis to have a 60-point game. It's one of the most asinine things I've ever heard to ever expect someone to have a 60-point game.
Okay, that doesn't make me late. I didn't go to the starting lineup in studio. Like
You weren't on your car phone. You weren't.
Yes, I was.
You were. I heard you stationary.
No, I was absolutely on my car phone. I wasn't in the studio with starting lineup.
You got Zaz has got some affluence now. The ESPN deal. He's got a car, Dan, where it's very soundproof. So
My driver had me on speaker in the car.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really was professional sounding studio for someone who was in his car. But okay, regardless, you were late and he's excited because there aren't a lot of things I don't think that you can do in 11 seconds. And I saw them happen a couple of times during last night's Panthers
What
game.
a night.
Who was it that was quoted after the game? Was it Seth Jones who was saying, I could feel the hatred on the ice. I could feel the hatred in the locker room.
It's the best sport like that. Like, what other sports do they still talk like that? It's why I've loved these NBA playoffs, because the teams seem to be hating each other this year, but it's always like that with the hockey. They hate each other.
I was gonna say, did you see Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green last night?
No, it's been good. It's been
Guys
good.
don't like each other, man.
It's been good.
Well, the Warriors-Rockets thing is interesting for a lot of reasons, but one of them is, hey, the Rockets were better than Golden State the entire season. When you had Jimmy Butler, no longer better. That's the difference, and that's what Golden State did for Curry that made all of us believe that Jalen Green and the Rockets weren't ready for what it takes at this time of year.
To be fair, Dan, Warriors with Jimmy Butler alone, I don't think they're better than Rockets. Warriors with Jimmy Butler, who's found the joy. Hold on now. He found the joy, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a difference maker right there because he was phenomenal last night. That rebound he got at the end.
Four guys. That's four guys he's getting a rebound from. As Draymond Green is telling Jalen, go paint your nails. Because there's a generational difference there between what's happening with Draymond and what's happening with Jalen Green. And Jalen Green is saying, what was Draymond doing out there? He was just talking. That's all he can do. He doesn't do much of anything else. Draymond is emboldened in voice right now because he's got Jimmy at his back.
It's the exact level of intensity that you would expect from a combination of guys like that. There were so many moments last night. I was thinking about the Jimmy Butler rebound, and I said, how many rebounds in NBA history can you remember? Like a rebound that stood out. It's
Bosh.
That's it.
Bosh.
That's
Bosh, but
Rebound Bosh, back out to Allen, his three-pointer, bang!
bang.
Oh,
But-
different time. So
but hold
pathetic.
on.
That sounds so pathetic today after what just happened. You two sound pathetic. Like, you go ahead.
We do
You're
the.
pathetic.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes, we do calls all the time. Come on, we're allowed to reminisce on the glory days,
No,
Dan.
not today. Everyone is here to eat your tears because this is as embarrassing as the Heat have been in 15 years. Like the hard stop.
Does the Bosh rebound stand out if the shot doesn't follow it?
Well, no.
That's my point. That rebound stands alone. It's not because, and then someone else hit a great shot. It's no, because he grabbed the rebound, and that's it. That's what I'm talking about when I say how many rebounds can you remember that stand alone for the simple act of the rebound itself.
Why does Jimmy Butler after the game say, I found my joy, I got my joy back, as they say? No, not as they say. You said that, Jimmy. You said that.
The thing that's interesting about this, and it's why it's such a cool thing to watch the gas pedal pressed on it, Jimmy, Draymond, Steph, can you do it 12 more times? Can you do it? It's just 12 games. The hot streak you had at the end of the regular season, can you put it together right now? I guess it's 13 more times, right? Mm-hmm. Can you do it 13 more times? Will Jimmy's body hold up? If that's what it looks like, and win number 3, and that's what it takes. It's going to take the road of the Rockets are going to be the easiest thing you see. And the road they have because they got in on the play-in game and they didn't get the rest and everything else, the road they have makes it physically harder for that team to make it through, like the Clippers and some of these old teams, specifically because of what's being asked of Jimmy at this pace. Like, the bet for the rest of this season is the Heat saying he can't do it for 13 more victories, and Golden State saying, we'll give you an extension to do it for 13 more victories.
Well, I don't think the Heat were saying they don't believe that he could do it for, throughout this year's playoffs. They were saying he can't do it through the year 2028, right? Isn't that what the Heat were saying in getting rid of him?
They were saying that, and also they don't believe that he wants to do it here anymore.
That's right.
Like the part about 2028 is last summer when they're like, I don't know if I want to sign that extension, right? The part where they traded him is where it's like, he's not going to do that here anymore.
Do you guys understand, though, why that night as punctuation for the last 15 years? And I understand you can hope that they'll get someone else. But this feels like the tires blowing off of the vehicle. Everything quits at the end. Whatever it is that you thought of annoying Billy for how many years with culture, ground to a big puff of dust as everyone now believes the punctuation. It wasn't Riley Culture for 15 years. Jimmy took that with him, and look at how it plays now late night television in Golden State, because it is something that the crazy can take with them, and it wasn't about your team or your organization or your principles. It was about the guy who now plays for a different champion.
I do think even if there's a downturn here even if it was a few years, that all comes back if and when they're competitive again, because I think everyone's forgetting 10-31 and some of those teams that were really kind of dreadful to watch with a bunch of veterans that, were just kind of floating around the league, and Kelly Olynyk and Dion Waiters and Rodney Magruder. Like, there were a bunch of years there where they were competing to get to the playoffs, same sort of thing. And then Jimmy Butler showed up and you paired him with Bam and Tyler and everything went from there. So I think that it would be fair to look at the end of this run and know that that's a punctuation
you guys
on
are full
6
of
years.
shit.
Can you do me the favor?
6 years, not 15.
Do me the favor of just curling up in a fetal position somewhere out in the studio, somewhere else, on the floor, and when I want your Heat analysis, I'll go to it curled up in the fetal position. So at the very least, I can hear your positivity and absorb your positivity as somebody who's broken today. Billy, why are you making faces at Jeremy and
because
in general?
You guys don't know yourselves whatsoever. Like, you're saying this today because it's the day after the season ended on April 29th, and sure enough, opening night next year, you will have convinced yourself that the Heat are serious contenders and they're going to make a run, and this is their year, and culture, and the Godfather fixed it, and Pat Riley this and Pat Riley that. And it'll probably be largely the same roster. Maybe you'll bring in one or two different pieces.
I don't know.
But this is how how it
Bam
goes.
is saying major changes in the losing locker room. Bam's saying we know major changes are coming.
You're the major change that needs to go, Bam. Like,
Whoa,
by the way,
wow.
just so we're on here. Major changes, pack your shit up and go. If you're really about this culture, do the best thing for the culture and leave.
Whoa.
Because you're not good enough.
Well, shouldn't he at least wait for them to trade him?
No, just leave.
For
Leave.
nothing?
No,
Whoa.
Void is better than Bam at this point in time, honestly. But I'm telling you, remember April 29th. I want that to be just, guys, let this be our calling sign. Remember April 29th. Because next year, come October 24th, we're going to be talking about this Heat team and how I like what they're doing here. I like what they did here in the offseason. It's what happens every single year. Every single year. It's not done, Dan. It's going to continue.
I want to explore something with you guys, though, here, because wherever the mental frailties in this sport reside, such that they are, okay, Jimmy has burnt through in Minnesota and Philadelphia and here an assortment of Ben Simmonses and Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns where he's more what? He's a better player, but more of a bleep hole as well, wherever the alpha shit is. He gets to Miami, and now we see what's played out over the last, 6 months. And it is revealed to all of us that if you give the ball to Tyler Hero, he'll be an all-star and he'll get better, and that's what your team will look like. And revealed to all, like, oh, that's where Bam's limits are. None of those guys will carry you to anything. We didn't think Jimmy would. But Jimmy burned through, and I want you to explain sort of what's happening there with competition, with toughness and crazy people about competition, where Jimmy's burning through a line of teammates to get to something higher and revealing in his wake, oh, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is as tough as he needs to be, or Wiggins is as tough as he needs to be, or Simmons is as tough as he needs to be, or Bam is as tough as he needs to be.
But he was right. That's the thing. In the moment, everyone's like, oh, what a jerk, get him out of here. But at the end of it, we look back and maybe Bam's got an opportunity to change that perception. But all those other names, you look back and say, oh, shit, he was 100% on point. These guys weren't tough enough.
Bam doesn't have the ability to change that perception. Bam is now a formed player. This is the best Bam will be.
It's not about being a better player. It's about a level of toughness and leadership that is expected and needed from him. That was the thing that was surprising me last night as I sat there and I watched every second of that awful.
Or Spo saying afterward we showed resilience in character?
No, they didn't.
But I'm saying Spo saying afterward that they showed resilience in character this season.
Yeah, like I think he meant specifically they lost 10 in a row and they still managed to make the playoffs.
Sure. But last night there was no resilience. None whatsoever. Not from the opening tip. There were moments early in the first half. It's a big deficit. I get it. But this is NBA. You get a couple of threes, all of a sudden it's not a big deficit. And the way they were playing was 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
I've never seen a Heat team playing as if it didn't want to get on a flight. I've never seen that before.
Dan, it will be erased in history. No one will remember this. But there was a play where Max Strus, sideline out of bounds, inbounds the ball, steps right in. They pass it right back to him. There's not a single Heat player within 30 miles of him. He's wide open for three. He misses the three, so it won't be remembered. But it's just like, what are we doing here? At what point does execution on the defensive end, effort, making the extra rotation, making the extra effort, all those things went out the window, and they went out the window very early in that game.
It was 30-8.
I mean, look, I think we kind of knew that, or at least I felt going into the game yesterday, we were going to learn a little bit about this Heat team. And what I mean by that is not that we're going to learn, oh, can they win the game? Okay, send the series back to Cleveland. But we're going to learn a little bit about this version of the Heat, because if you get down early, they all know they're not winning the series. Maybe they win the game, They're not winning the series. They know that, okay? So we're going to learn a little bit about this team where if they get down early, which do they start thinking to themselves, all right, is it even worth trying to put 1,000% effort to get back in this game than to just get on a plane for one more game and get killed in Cleveland? Like, we're going to learn a little bit about this team, and we did learn, which was, we don't really think it's worth the trouble. And
that's the part that's different, right?
Yeah.
Because
well, that's also what's going to spark the change.
Sure.
The change that the fan base has wanted. Like, I don't know that I want to sit here and do silver lining today, okay? But losing that game by 1 point yesterday is not the way to go into the offseason. Like, the Heat fan has wanted this change, and now you got Bam Adebayo sitting there post-game saying, the guy with the silver hair, he's going to make major change. Like, yeah.
Who was he talking about? Who was he talking about?
Not Spo. That guy used a lot of product.
Zaslow, Billy, I don't know how I am to feel about this. That was an excellent rant by Zaslow about learning about the Heat team. I heard it first on the starting lineup with Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine on the way in. It's a good take, but it's the second time I'm hearing it today.
You got to bring fresh stuff, Saz. Like, I was walking in Big Mac, the parking attendant downstairs. You know what he told me?
What? Did he hear me too? Did he hear my appearance as well?
No, he didn't, but he told me, Spo, out of touch.
Yep, we got to get that guy, Mike.
Big
wa-
Mac.
he wants-
Big
he wants-
Mac wants
I get a
Spo
10
out
I
of
get a-
He
here.
wants Greer out too.
I get
Oh
a-
yeah, every day he tells me about Greer.
Well,
He
that's
hates Greer.
understandable.
Does
I get
not
like a nice
Greer.
little 10-second show every day.
Yeah,
nice little
I
walk
love-
by, a little fist
We all
bump.
do.
Love Big Mac.
We
yeah.
all do.
He
Let's-
was so excited about the draft, Dan.
Yes, he was, but he wants Greer out, and he didn't like a fullback. But can we get him? Can we get a camera and a microphone down to Mac? Mike, you've been very patient. I want all of your Panther thoughts in a moment, but first, let's just go up to Jeremy in a curled up fetal position, because as Zaz goes silver lining, this is what you wanted, Heat fans. No Heat fans wanted
Oh, my
this.
God.
There's Jeremy broken today because the Miami Heat, I don't know why we didn't start with a sad song or a eulogy, because I can't remember the last time it felt this bad around here.
I feel broken, and I've never wanted to retreat into myself more, to look inward,
N-word.
Thought he was going to say a star.
Careful, Jeremy.
to examine why I
Am the way that I am.
Can you hurry up a little bit? Jesus Christ, man.
Do you
Pick up
think
the
that what
pace.
you're doing is so dramatically good that people are just waiting with anticipation for what you're going to say next?
I blame the bed.
Aren't you supposed to be impartial and a member of the media? Why would you be sad today?
because Dan Le Batard has ruined all of my credibility and my ability to get another job anywhere else for the rest of my life. So I really hope that one day I get to sign a contract that says I work here.
Can you turn his microphone down, please? Because
already down.
the people want to hear from him today, broken and tears.
Nah.
And the Heat fans around here hide sometimes. So, Mike Ryan, you were right about all Heat things 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know what we can castigate you on. You sort of predicted that all of this was coming. You wanted Bam out of here a long time ago. The Damian Lillard thing has been a disaster in Milwaukee, and I don't even know if he's going to play next year. So, is he? Is he going to play next year?
He ruptured his Achilles. He's not going to play next year.
Okay, so whatever it is that the Miami Heat are doing probably centers around Giannis now, but you take no comfort from being right on this one?
No, because I feel like I wasted 2 years of my prime. These are good title celebration years. I mean, I can't even imagine how an 80-year-old Pat Riley feels. I mean, it was wasted time. From their approach 2 off seasons ago, we knew this day would come. We knew that they weren't good enough, and we wasted 2 years watching them go through this exercise, and it was an embarrassment. And by the way, they lost to Cleveland, who took their lunch money several years ago in acquiring Donovan Mitchell. They also found a way to get Donovan Mitchell to extend, while, to Billy's point, Heat fans were saying, no, it's all right. He's going to sign over here. He's going to sign over here. Look at the hat that he was wearing. He was with Bam. And we were doing the same pathetic exercise. By the way, Donovan Mitchell develops under Kenny Atkinson in a way that if he did under Spo, we would not shut up about it. And
That team under Atkinson, what they did.
and Cleveland somehow even avoids what was another calling card of Heat culture, which is, that guy can do it here, but he can't do it anywhere. The Strus deal has been fine for them. It hasn't been a deal that they regret. It's been a nice piece for the team that they've been building. So when I'm sitting on my couch, finally able to watch a Heat game because it's on TNT, and I'm jealous of the way that the Cleveland Cavaliers have built their franchise and have bullied my president around, I mean, what else do you need? It smacked you hard in the face, smacked you harder in the face, and it smacked any team in the playoff history.
Zaslow, when you look at the architecture of the Miami Heat and missing the last few years on the people they've missed on, and quantifiably, right? Like this part I'm saying all the time because we saw it. At the bubble at the rim, it was Bam and Tatum. And since then, the franchises have gone in totally opposite directions, where now the Celtics are the ones who have Peyton Pritchard. What is that? How does that happen that way? And as Mike said, it's not just Max Strus. Gabe Vincent ends up in L.A. That doesn't end up working. Caleb Martin never ends up being what it is that he was here. But the people who took the things they learned here, LeBron took them to Cleveland, and Cleveland since then has rebuilt into something that I don't recognize since sort of before LeBron when it was Brad Daugherty. Like before LeBron, at different time in Cavs basketball, there have only been a couple times that the Cavs have been really good. Like good where they can win a championship good. and now's one of them. Like the 4 guys they got, they didn't need Garland to do that to the Heat the last 2 games. That's like they are so much better than a 10 seed and probably the only real challenger in the East to Boston. I know Orlando like gives them more of a fit than any team in the league because they haven't been tested the last 2 championship runs. Orlando somehow prevents Boston from making its threes. But at the end of the game the other night, I mean, where it's Banchero and Wagner trying to beat Tatum and Brown, Orlando falls at the finish line.
Well, so a couple of things there, right? There's a lot there. Let's start with Pat Riley, quote unquote, hasn't done a good job or whatever. To me, when I hear you guys say that a lot, because you have an expectation that Pat Riley can go, abracadabra, got you a superstar. But I would defy any of you guys to tell me what's the deal that he turned down or he mismanaged. What's the bad decision? To me, it's not unlike when the Mavericks kind of broke up their championship team and they had set up all of their ducks in a row to be players in free agency, and then year after year they kept missing in free agency, and everyone was upset. I'm like, what do you want, man? Like, at the end of the day, it's free agency. The guy has the agency to go wherever he wants. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. What do you want? I don't understand, because they're trying. It's just they don't have the assets and they don't have kind of the package that some of these other teams can offer. When you talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dan, you're right. This is the best non-LeBron Cavs team the Cavs have ever had. That's not hard when you consider their history. They really didn't have a lot of success.
But they're great. It's not just a great regular season team. They're
team.
Obviously a great basketball team that can run with OKC. They can rebound with anybody. They're tough. They have all the things you need to win a championship.
They do. I talked to Kenny Atkinson during the All-Star break, and I said, how striking is it to you that there are a lot of similarities? I'm not saying they are the same thing, but there are a lot of similarities between Kenny Atkinson coming to the Cavs and 10 years ago Steve Kerr coming to the Warriors, where Steve Kerr came to a Warriors team that won 50 games and been to the playoffs and got knocked out in the second round. And everyone was like, okay, it's a nice little team, but, I mean, you're never going to win a championship that way, right? And we kind of said the same things about the Cavs. And then a coach comes in and says, wait, I know I'm replacing someone who was successful here, whether it's Mark Jackson or J.B. Bickerstaff, but what if we do it this way? And all of a sudden it unlocks something that takes them from we're a nice little team to, oh, no, we're ass kickers.
I mean, didn't that also happen with Golden State when
That's
Steve Kerr took over from Mark
Steve
Jackson?
Martin. Yeah, Steve Martin was a prop comment.
Were you not listening? You were staring right at him, and I heard him say that, and you weren't listening.
I was focused on Kenny Atkinson, though.
I've got to get rid of Zaz is really playing the Stugotz role. He's got
to hit with the Iceman later.
Let's see. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of him. How do I do this? All right,
He's still with Scal. Spiritually.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, delay of show.
Yeah.
No, and also this one. Hold on a second, because it's going to be 4 minutes, because he was staring right at you, and you said Steve Kerr.
I was very focused.
No, you weren't very focused. You got here late today, and you gave all your good stuff to the starting lineup.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for not listening.
So that's 4 minutes total. And he was staring right at you. I don't know what it is.
It was literally the point I was making.
Yes, I don't. It's literally.
Yes, I just said Mark Jackson and J.B. Bickerstaff.
It's flabbergasting and disrespectful what you did there. You shouldn't be paid for it.
I kind of wish he was on his phone or something. Then I could
He was staring right at you.
That
seat is so good at nodding while not listening. Mike Ryan, you were saying.
Well, I guess to close my point, look, Amin asked the question, what's the deal that they passed up on? I think you could look at some of the linked targets and say, Lillard, that ended up working out for you. Bradley Beal, that ended up working out for you. Joel Embiid, although that's kind of like a tangential thing, that ends up working out for you. But I think that there's plenty, like in Donovan Mitchell a couple of times, Kevin Durant a few times, James Harden a few times, Drew Holiday, which was essentially a byproduct of your ego and your whole approach to Damian Lillard. And by the way, we don't really know how the Damian Lillard thing goes down here. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's been plenty of missed opportunities. And to your original question, who's to blame for these expectations? Pat Riley. Pat Riley is to blame for these expectations. He literally goes in front of the media and talks about whale hunting. He has built his whole franchise around, yes, there's been the recent thing of player development, but the business plan down here has always been getting big-time stars. That's how he wins.
I didn't ask about whose fault is it the expectations. I asked, where did they misstep?
They misstep in that the other teams inside. My whole issue with how the Miami Heat have been approaching the last 2 seasons is they were very much a middle-of-the-pack Eastern Conference team. And seemingly everybody that they were competing against was out there making more aggressive moves. Some of them cashed in like Boston. Some of them flamed out like Daryl Morey in Philadelphia. But everywhere around you, you saw teams make the move. You saw teams make the move to get better. See, even Siakam, like there are so many of these players that could have helped Miami, and all the other teams in that pack made moves to get better. Miami stood pat.
You think they were like, hey, do you guys want Siakam? Well,
Oh, Heat culture. How did the Heat culture look last night? Oh my God, what a delicious game. Ooh. This morning, Dan, I'm drinking Heat tears for breakfast.
They're brown.
I was going to print out a picture of Ryan Cortez and put it on a Flanagan's cup, but then you said you needed me 20 minutes earlier, so I didn't have time to do that. But that's what I'm drinking this morning is Heat tears.
If they're brown, why are they brown? That looks like a dark drink.
We're very Latino down here.
yeah.
Dehydrated.
How are you feeling in general about watching them lose that way? Were you delighted, or were you and Lehman, because he, as a Knicks fan, he's obligated to be at least a little bit of a Heat hater, correct?
Oh, he despises the Heat, Dan. But when the Heat game ended, I said, "Well, the Warriors play next. What if Jimmy Butler has a big night? That would be even more interesting. Add some insult to injury, perhaps." And then Jimmy Butler scored 27 points. And did I sleep through most of it? Yes. There was some weird Draymond Green shenanigans in there too, but it was amazing. I saw a stat this morning, Dan. The Warriors are 25-8 when Jimmy Butler plays. What an amazing pickup for the Warriors. And halftime, 72-33 for the Heat. Not great.
I want to talk about the Heat with her, but also there's so much encompassed under the umbrella of Draymond Green shenanigans. Like Draymond Green playoff shenanigans. I mean, we're in round 1, and honest to God, it's like rolling a grenade on the court with this person.
I'm going to be honest. That felt more like Dylan Brooks' playoff shenanigans. Draymond Green actually was kind of mostly tame last night. It was Dylan Brooks just being an absolute agitator. And to Draymond Green's credit, he didn't take the bait. Right? Like, they wanted him. Oh, wow. We've got a portrait of sad Ryan Cortez in the background. Shout out to Lehman.
Good work by Lehman there.
I was producing.
Jessica, just how much did you enjoy it? What did you enjoy the most? Because I'm saying that Ty Jerome hitting a 3 from half court and the Cleveland announcer yelling, "It's a typhoon in Miami," while they laughed uproariously.
It's not funny.
Come on. It is.
Laughing.
It is
Not
funny.
funny.
It is funny.
I think, Dan, the funniest part was I was eating dinner at a restaurant and I was like, I'll check the score on my ESPN app and see what it is. And it was 43-17 at halftime. That was the funniest part. 43-17. And I sat there and I ordered another drink. I said, "Margarita's on the house tonight. I'm drinking." This is the funniest thing that I have ever seen. And honestly, Dan, the fact that your father was there and your mother, that is elder abuse. You should not have let them go.
I love how everyone has like their moment of the score they checked in on. Because
Yep.
I had one, I checked it was like 66-22 or something like that. I'm just like, this is an
Stupidest
insane
score.
game.
Let me tell you how to entertain yourself at a game like that. Is just wondering, I wonder if they can do this. So for me, it always starts with, I wonder if they can double them up. Then once that happens,
Yeah.
like, I wonder if they can get it to 30 before half. And then you get a point to like, last night they were down 70-25, and I said, I wonder if they can triple them.
At halftime, I asked myself, can they win by 100?
Do you guys realize in the history of both playoff basketball and numbers, there were numbers on that scoreboard
Numbers
that
has a
have
long history.
never. There were numbers on that scoreboard that have never been on that scoreboard
sport is
before.
Dad, you're gonna love this. There is a national writers, I should say, who were at the game last night. I'm not gonna name who they were, but they lamented at one point in the second half, I missed the diff. If you don't know, in Cleveland on their scoreboard, at all times, they have the difference. They call it the diff.
It's on their television broadcast.
Now they
too.
put it in the broadcast too, right? And it's there at all times. It's not like something they bring up, oh, look at the spread. They always tell you what it is. And I just looked there and I said, this is the failure of the American public school education system because you guys can't even do the simple math, to which the rebuttal was, The score's never been this big, though. Like, they've never had to deal with numbers like this, Dan.
I mean, I asked Lehman at one point, I'm like, what's 17 plus 38? I need to do some quick math here. I'll give you one more number, Dan. I'll give you one more number, 4. That's how many points Tyler Hero had.
Oh, my God. He was awful. He was awful.
Whittingham, Mike Ryan is presently sending video a betting slip from Whittingham last night on a bet he cashed. I want to see what this number is. Heat plus what? At some point live in game, because I will say it again, in the history of basketball and numbers, on that scoreboard, there were absolutely numbers, a variety of different scores that have never been there before. There's no way the Heat have played a game where that was the halftime score before. That's not a thing that's happened before.
I saw at one point at halftime, the live odds were 40.5. I mean, obviously they ended up covering it, Cleveland, but can you imagine? You're looking like, yeah, I'm going to take minus 40.5. And you know what? You were a winner.
No, you could have done minus more than that, I think.
What's crazy about Jess is that she didn't even tell you guys about me preemptively texting her during the third quarter of last game looking for any sort of ammo that she had against you guys hating sports because I knew the tongue lashing that I was going to take today.
And
so
I did not.
That's the type
I did
of night
not
that
cooperate.
she
Jeremy, shame on you. I did not participate in that because
Not
I
at
said
all.
you should feel bad and you should feel ashamed, Jeremy,
That's
because
right.
you said that this team would be successful because of, and I quote, the power of friendship.
Well, that was before the season.
What?
I did say that.
Wait, that's a quote?
I said the power of friendship.
You guys
was
don't
back.
listen to him when he talks, but sometimes
Yeah,
I
of
think
course
you
they
guys
don't.
are crazy.
Well, he also told us, if I remember correctly, before the season that Jimmy Butler was going to play like 90% of the games, and he
That
was
was the
really
plan.
going to go into it because he had a contract coming up, and he was really going to show a different Jimmy this
I
year.
was on that
so-
boat,
I
too.
mean, he
Yeah.
did kind of show how
and
good he
Jaime
is for the
Jaquez was
contract.
going to be Jimmy Butler.
Well, that
Remember
was the name of a group chat. That's different.
No me importa lo que de me se diga, vive usted vida que yo vivo la mía, que solo una disfruta el momento, que el tiempo se acaba y para atrás no vira, viviendo, fumando y oyendo. Siga vacilando de party todos los días. Síguelo. Wow. Wow. Síguelo. Wow. Wow. Pepa y agua para la seca, todo el mundo es patía en la discoteca. Pepa y agua para la seca, todo el mundo es patía en la discoteca.
This episode is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Mike Ryan, I am saying this to you as somebody who for 30 years has been mocked in public for his eyebrows, okay? And I'm not saying this about your eyebrows. I'm saying the audience is saying your eyebrows right now are better than Sam Elliott's mustache. There's a celebration going on around your eyebrows that is conjuring both Freddie Mercury vibes and that you're meeting the Village people after the show. Debbie Does Dallas is making an appearance in terms of a porn star, and Zaz is nodding to all of this.
Yeah, I can see that.
Is it the eyebrows or the mustache?
I've always had these eyebrows. I haven't routinely.
Maybe the mustache brings out the eyebrows?
I guess.
It's a third eyebrow, kind of.
Oh.
So you just walk down the street and people make fun of your eyebrows? Like, that's
For
very
30 years
sad.
on television.
Where do you
yes.
walk? Yeah.
Just anywhere I walk, anywhere I go,
They
anywhere.
call, hey, bushes. What do they
Anywhere
say?
no, not bushes. No one's ever called them bushes. Thank you for that.
What do
But
they call you? What would you call eyebrows other than bushes?
That's the only choice, obviously.
Oh.
Yes, the bushes is the only choice. So my friends and the people who mock me with their vocabulary don't have any other choices. But yes, caterpillars are usually. Look, man, since I was young, my mom used some wax to so I wouldn't look like Anthony Davis here, and it hurt, and I was, and she did it well into my 40s.
You're a unibrow.
I was a unibrow, yes. And so my eyebrows have been mocked on television for many years. I feel like it's one of the last places you're allowed to mock a human being these days in a way that's public. You can come after the eyebrows.
You know the I was 40 years old thing is like a joke we use around here? That one I believe.
Yeah.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you believe Dan's mom was waxing his eyebrows in his 40s?
I definitely do.
Okay, you guys can believe that. I'd sit on the toilet in her house, and she would just come out here with a hot kettle, and I was, 46, 47.
I have it happening on the HQ set.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Even better. Just wandering out with a hot tin. Jamal Hill is with us now. Mike Ryan, before we bring in Jamal, I thought that the Shadour Sanders takes were flying all over the place for about 72 hours. And I'm going to go ahead and say almost everybody was right. Like when you go wandering off to Colin Kaepernick land, you've lost me on collusion. But just in terms of all of the things being said, I was kind of fascinated that I could watch people talk about something for 3 days, ask all of my friends, hey, have you read anything interesting on this? Have everyone say no. Like that nothing interesting has been written about this, but everybody has an opinion. And everyone is kind of right. And it's funny to see everyone kind of right. It's also funny to see everyone forget who this man's father was. Like for the idea for this to be showy when Dion Sanders showed up to his last game, limousine, top hat, tuxedo, and 0.0 grade point average. Like this is just the progeny being what it is after all of these years. And it's been a fun story, but have you read anything or seen anything or heard anything good on it?
No, not good. I think for me, like the most interesting thing was Andrew Berry's reaction as they called the pick, because this was very clearly a Jimmy Haslam move. Which
his
is
face, you're just saying reading his face with no comment.
reading his face. Or Stefanski forcing a clap. Like they had already taken Dylan Gabriel. That franchise is a mess. Look at their quarterback room right now. Just make a reality show around that quarterback room. You know it's not going to work out for Shadour because the Browns took him. It's just a joke of a franchise. So
well, and Andrew Berry's reaction, it didn't make any. I mean, his explanation didn't make any sense to me. Where it's we took him there because we believe that he's going to outperform the value of the pick. It's like, okay, but then you're also the only way he outperforms the value of the pick is if the guy you took in the third round then underperforms the value you took.
You cracked the
him
case, Zaz.
Thank you.
It doesn't make any sense because the explanation was a lie. The explanation was Jimmy Haslam made this call. And
What if he
Jimmy
just said that? What if he just got in front of the mic with the owner maybe?
But why don't you just say that? It's so obvious.
Well,
Why
because the
doesn't
owner has
anyone
actually said it for himself in the past. Deshaun Watson, it took him a couple of years to kind of admit that one. Johnny Manziel, there was an unhoused individual that had more influence than our.
So
than
Shadour's
our
really
GM.
good. The owner's going to come out and say, "I told him to do that."
Yeah, we'll find out. Or if it's like his fault. I mean, it's a low stakes thing. That's why there isn't collusion. Actually, one of the best opinions that I heard on the matter was on Denny Hamlin's podcast. Like collusion, get out of here. It's the NFL draft.
Jamel's face.
It's like low stakes. You mean to tell me like these front offices are killer? If they truly feel like Shadour Sanders presents a value and that can help them win football games, they're going to collude to keep this kid out.
Well, I mean, Stephen A. was giving voice to that. So Jamel, come in here. they lost me. I was willing to engage on all the talk right up until we arrived at Colin Kaepernick land, and it just gets so historically forgetful as to be an ignorant, insulting argument to make to see collusion here, as opposed to, hey, I've been watching drafts for a long time, and woo, Dion was wrong, huh, about his kid? Dion was wrong thinking his kid was the second or third best player in the draft, and we kind of believed him because Dion just kept telling us. And so everybody put him up there. But Jamal, thank you for joining us. And as you've absorbed the coverage, where have you been amused and where have you been enlightened?
Well, the neighborhood race lady has a surprising take here. I don't think this really was about race at all. And I know that, and it pains me to say this only from this perspective, is because I have been as critical of the NFL and its racist undertones and overtones as much as anybody. I am not the one to throw down the cape over the puddle for the NFL because their track record speaks for itself when it comes to matters where race is, if not directly implied, at least it's just sort of floating there right around the atmosphere in their unwillingness to actually deal with it. But in this case, what is crazy to me is that we have turned Shadour Sanders not being taken in the first round, not being taken when people thought that he should have been, as if he's some kind of freedom fighter and political prisoner. And I'm like, that's not what any of this was about. Listen, it's hard for me. And I know that just because you have, sometimes these things don't go together at all. It's like in the territory of you have a black friend, right? But the person I really feel sorry for is Cam Ward. Cam Ward went number one. Cam Ward was a 0-star recruit from a 2-parent home, because you know how we like to throw that around, right? And on some respectability type of stuff. He is a fantastic player, confident, did all the things, drafted number one. And with the way people have so embraced this narrative that Shadour was done so wrong, it's like they basically making Cam Ward sound like he's Steven from Django. And I'm just like, you don't even know this kid. It's like suddenly he's painted in this light because, the NFL will accept that type of black, but not this type of black. It's like, do you know how many black players went ahead of Shadour Sanders? It's a lot of them, all right? And the bottom line is, maybe we should accept the fact, and this is not to say that Shadour Sanders cannot go on to have a great NFL career, can't do great things, but maybe we, as black people, need to accept the fact that Dion Sanders may have overplayed his hand a little bit. And there's no crime in him infusing all the confidence in Shadour. Listen, I was not bothered by the wrist flexing, by none of that. NFL teams, if you're talented enough, they don't care, all right? They don't. And we have seen this countless times. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens in the second round drafted somebody who has been accused of sexual assault multiple times. But you want me to believe that, like, in the NFL, they make these talent decisions all the time. But if the talent is worth it, they don't give a damn if you showed up in gold-plated everything, flashing whatever, as long as you can play. That's all they care about.
Jamal, I want to get your thoughts here on whether there's a greater sports crime with the customer than arrogance, but I know that Mike Ryan was bothered by what it is you were saying about the coverage on Cam Ward.
It was terrible. This was a 0-star prospect in high school that had built himself up to the number one overall draft pick in the NFL. It is a momentous thing. It is an inspiring story. And you're spending that entire time talking about a 5th-round draft pick. It is so, in hindsight, granted, the benefit of hindsight, why would you do this? Why would you make it about Cam Ward versus Shadour? Because Mel Kiper had his projections way wrong and you wanted to make television? You should have leaned into the moment. It is such an uplifting story. Cam Ward going from 0-star, a guy that ran the wing T in high school, to Incarnate Word, to Washington State, to a guy that declared for the draft last year but didn't really have draft prospects. He would have been a 5th-round draft pick like Shadour had he entered, turned himself to number one overall. That is an inspiring story that ESPN should have leaned all the way in on. Instead, we got BS because their main draft analyst felt some kind of way about it, and in retrospect, they could have been talking about any fifth-round draft pick. It was just such a missed opportunity.
Jamel, what do you make of not just that, but also the needs in media to be right, sound right, and defend your position? Because Mel Kiper Jr. went down swinging on I know what I'm talking about, and the NFL has no idea how to analyze quarterbacks because he just insisted that his identity at the end would be, I'm right about this. Everyone else is wrong. And it just ends up tainting the coverage because his voice on it, Jamel, broadcasters do this in a way that's really influential. If people are a little bit mad, they're going to get a lot angry if all of a sudden what they see is a broadcaster with any credibility lighting flames on this is so wrong, this is disgusting, this is disgraceful, when all you're doing is wrapping a cape in. You were really wrong, Mel, in a way that, like, you've rarely been this kind of wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we act like this is, and I'm not trying to throw a shot at Mel Kiper because I generally find him to be a good person. Like I've dealt with him over the years. He's been nothing but kind to me. But this ain't the first time Mel has been badly wrong. All right. And the problem in this case, why it was kind of the perfect recipe for this kind of explosive reaction by a lot of people, is that Dion Sanders, Shadour Sanders, the entire Colorado story, they brought in a lot of really casual fans, as in people who did not pay attention to football at all or barely paid attention to college football, and certainly not the NFL draft. So between Dion building the hype, between the hype in general just being around this team, there was an expectation already built that Mel Kiper fed. So a lot of people are feeling disappointed, and we're feeling like this was a grave injustice when it's just, if you watched and studied the NFL and reported on the NFL, you understand how this could have possibly happened. I mean, I would even gather to say, if anything, at least among the media, I mean, how fans have responded, and they tend to get blurred together because there was definitely a huge portion of particular fan bases that did the opposite in terms of treating Shadour Sanders a particular way, and when we know what that is, we know what that element is. Like, they definitely face that. But in the media, if anything, because of the reverence for Dion, I think a lot of people were kind of covering for it, and he got not him himself, but when it came to like really evaluating Shadour's talent, I think that they probably gave him some passes and maybe didn't report as accurately or as honestly as they should have because of who his father was. And
that's crazy.
That doesn't do things a right.
That's crazy. That's crazy to suggest that the media was sort of biased and bought by Dion's charm.
That's on.
I don't know if it's his charm, because I do think what happens in the media, especially, and it can be done sort of innocently enough when you see a fan base reacting, because the Shadour Sanders, Dion Sanders, let's be real, they made a whole lot of white folks mad. They made them mad, all right, by the way they presented themselves. Like and there was nothing wrong with how they did, but there was a contingent that was on the hate train because they thought it was overhyped and all the other narratives that we have talked about when it came to this family. And I think that there were media members who were very conscious of that and understood that that was at play. And perhaps it made them pull their punches in ways, because we saw too much extreme. Just like, there was media in Colorado when Dion had that back and forth with that reporter based off something that he reported on. We saw how Dion, being charismatic and being very, very somebody who understands the media, having been a part of it, we see how he is able to use the media in his favor. I mean, he is. And I think a lot of media members, rather than give another draft pick whose last name might not be Sanders, I think a lot of these stories that we heard about his approach and criticisms about his approach to the NFL, to the combine, to other things, I think those things would have probably been reported and talked about a lot sooner if it were somebody else not attached to the last name Sanders.
Right. I think that was my takeaway yesterday, was if his name was Shadour Williams, but those stories about how he behaved in pre-draft came out, I think the same thing would have happened. I don't know, in a weird way, I don't know how much Dion Sanders had anything to do with what happened to him on draft day, because it seems to me it was more about teams saying, well, this guy's clearly not a serious guy, especially playing that position.
What
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
what you guys
I
are
think that
saying, though,
there-
I'm sorry, Jamel.
Yep.
What you guys are saying doesn't make sense to me. The idea that our information brokers and the people who are mining the data on scouting report would just be hypnotized and mesmerized by, well, Dion says he's a top pick, therefore he's a top pick.
It's not necessarily just charisma, though, right? It's intimidation of the local media. We saw it, right? If you're not going to sit here and compliment my kid and Travis Hunter, who I brought in here too, and me, you're not going to be here. I'm not going to allow you into my media space. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to dismiss your questions. It's right out of the Trump playbook. Like, it's the same idea, which is if you are not here asking me the questions I want to be asked, I'm not going to answer them. And the only information that's going to come out is positive. And there were a ton of folks understandably excited about the story. We're part of it, right? We just kept talking about how cool Colorado is, how good Shadour Sanders is, how good Travis Hunter is, never really breaking down any Colorado games. How many of us were really watching every snap? We weren't, but we were hyping it up because it was an awesome story. And now all of these things, whether it's his personality, whether it's the way he treats his teammates, whether it's the way he treats opponents, all of those things sort of come to light in these interview spaces in a different way than you could get with the media.
Well, and then the other complicated layer too here, guys, is that I think if you are a Black journalist in this space reporting on this story, there's a different sense of responsibility that's going to be on you than other people. And from that, I mean this is that because there was a wall of Black protectionism that formed around Dion Sanders and Shadour Sanders, because, that wall was definitely there. And because of that, any criticism of Dion and any criticism of Shadour, especially if you're Black, was viewed as you selling out the race. You selling out, like, oh, so let me get this straight. You allow this to happen, but not this to happen. Like, you have all these words for this. Like, it was one, I don't remember what press conference it was, where I felt like, Dion didn't handle it particularly well, or some of the things he said, I sort of critiqued. And the number of people calling me a sellout, or saying that, like, oh, y'all just hate it when a Black man is confident, and then it was like, whoa, where did all this come from? So I think all of that is wrapped up in this, is that I don't think it was a thing. Yes, the media, I totally agree with you. The media got caught up in the story. They got caught up in the hype, and it's a great story, and it definitely was a great story to see Colorado back on the map. And even when he was at Jackson State, it was always positioned as, here is Dion Sanders, this NFL Hall of Famer with all this personality, all this charisma, and he's bringing all that to a Black college, putting them back on the map, making a statement about Black excellence. And once that narrative took hold, criticizing Dion or criticizing Shadour was frankly not going to be greeted very kindly. And I think there were some people in the media who were aware of that, and they may have seen some pink flags in terms of maybe as a prospect, he has some things to work on, and pulled their punches. And thus everybody is wondering, well, how did we get to a situation where I thought he was going to be the second player chosen or in the top 5 to this? And all it could have possibly been is misreading the room. Because if you are a second or third round graded pick and you're heading into the draft process, you have an opportunity to increase your value. If your then game plan becomes, I'm going to tank some interviews because I don't want to go there. I'm going to tell people, hey, I only want to play for certain teams. I'm going to go into meetings and tell them the kind of offense I want to run. What do you think is going to happen? It's like, yes, because if they don't get an opportunity to get to know you and to get to know you beyond what the headlines have been, then they're just going to make up what they assume to be part of your character. And you're going to get this.
That part is funny because Ice Cube's kid, O'Shea, came on with us the other day and was just saying, because his dad said, just leave the set if they're making you wait around for 7 hours. And he's like, I'm not you, Dad, but it appears that Shadour went in as if he were Dion with the headsets. God almighty, this is funny.
Well, Dan, real quick, though, I think that's such an excellent point and something that's been overlooked in all of this. I think Dion played this with Shadour in terms of advising him, orchestrating
his agent, his coach, his only coach.
Yes, as if Dion were coaching himself. And it's like, yo, man, you have generational ability that was obvious, right? If Shadour was placed in that category, being a can't miss, surefire generational talent, all the advice you gave him makes sense. But when you still have some work to do and improvements to make, and there's still questions about how you play the position, then you need to approach this a lot differently.
That was your friendly neighborhood race lady.
Jamal, you have covered Florida sports long enough to remember how Dion entered the draft when he entered the draft, making it clear to all it's all about me and money, and that's all it's about, and did this 30 years ago.
Correct. In a time that you could argue was much more conservative. And he did that. And you know why the NFL said, we don't care? Because of Dion's talent. That is why. And so, that's why it's hard for me to look at some of these takes that are trying to blame everything on race and culture. And that was the reason with that Shadour wasn't drafted higher, because the NFL doesn't like a confident man or confident black man. I'm like, well, how the hell did Dion survive? Because, he wore, confidence and swag and all those and bravado. That was his uniform, more so than any team he ever played for. And it was not only made him accepted, it made him beloved. And I think there's just some realities that we have to accept. And, I guess if I may arrogantly speak for my people real quick, it's just some situations we just look at and just say, we need a win. And no matter what. We need a W, okay? And I think this was one of those situations where in the secret Illuminati meetings of black folks, they got together and said, you know what, we gonna get this W one way or another. And I'm like, guys, this might not have been the one we should have met about.
On your way out, the University of Washington Center for Human Rights recently reported that one of the New England Patriots team planes was used and commissioned for the purpose of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for several deportation flights to Honduras. Any thoughts?
Just on the spot, huh, Dan?
Yeah. See you later, Jamal. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Me just give a quizzical. I'm concerned, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, better to just talk about Shadour Sanders. I don't know how people are experiencing America at the moment, but reading that report seemed like, come on, the Patriots team plane 2000. They bought 2 team planes in 2017. Mike, did you see anything Shadour related? Anything from anybody that was like, I liked listening to this person on this subject. I thought that they were astute.
Jamal.
Thank you.
I will say one thing that I was disappointed we didn't get to yesterday in regard to Shadour Sanders was obviously him being drafted after Dillon Gabriel, but that allows us to listen to one of my favorite sounds of Dillon Gabriel, a guy who's from Hawaii, then went to school in Florida, then Oklahoma, then Oregon. Here he is before playing in the Rose Bowl.
What's your best look like?
Competitive, making plays, being good in situational football. Not for the coach talk, but it's just the reality of the situation. But we love the Rose Bowl. We love warm weather. I think we should play more football on nice grass instead of our artificial stuff. And the more sun, the better. Why do we do it to ourselves? Do fans want to sit in the snow and the rain? And let's just make arenas. Let's make domes. Let's do grass. Let's do more fireworks at games. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, all right. So first of all, if you keep winning, you get domes the next 2 games. So
I love that.
Did you know that?
I do, or now I do.
Now you do.
But let's continue that evolution.
Welcome to Cleveland, buddy.
My new favorite player.
Is that all gummies? What's happening there?
He's either really high or really Hawaiian.
I want fireworks going off on the field during plays. More fireworks. That'd be so much fun. Whoa, I wonder if the fireworks are going to go off this play. Oh, my God.
We should have more warm weather. He's going to Cleveland, folks.
Let's do turf. Let's do grass.
Can you guys answer for me on if your owner is in the room? We have a photograph now of Browns management. Do you know how rare this is that you can take a photograph of a front office and be like, "Oh, look, they're sad. They didn't want to do they didn't want to do that." You're not. I know there's some confirmation bias. I know there's some stuff that we can do because we think that they're feeling that. But I want to ask you, when Seth Jones says I could feel the hatred on the ice, I could feel the hatred, when you can feel a room or a photograph and you're like, those people were told by that owner what to do there, because it doesn't make any sense that you would draft that guy after Dylan Gabriel. As far as sports photographs go, you don't get a lot more telling statements than all of us being able to see, oh, you guys weren't allowed to do your job there, and there's a photographic proof of it.
I can feel the hatred coming from Billy Gill towards the video department because they just put up a side-by-side.
Well, that's in the preview. That wasn't...
it went on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They put for the listeners, they put a side-by-side of Dylan Gabriel and Billy Gill. And Billy?
It's fine. I mean, at least it's not someone with glasses. I normally just get anyone that's wearing glasses, so it's a step up, I guess.
So you're okay with it, but you don't agree with it?
No, it's fine. I mean, I don't think I look that like him, but that's fine.
Okay, and
it's Dylan Gabriel and Gillen Dabriel.
Oh, boy.
Because Billy Gill? No? The inverse of each other? I'll go.
Just looking at...
Why would you think that was the time to say that?
At the corner of my eye, looking at Dan's finger, reach...
Major penalty, 5 minutes, swooning comedy.
There is incredible comedy in seeing you not push the button, but just the reach of the finger towards it.
Make sure I get the right one.
Just reaching across.
Zaslow has had a week, okay? And I don't think that he and Mike Ryan are going to see eye to eye on something that happened here earlier today. Zaslow was not yet here because he was late, and Mike Ryan stormed in the room coming out of Talladega that he believes to be the best thing ever after snorting "I am right" on the Miami Heat playoffs and then snorting 2 goals in 11 seconds, craziest feeling that you've had in hockey so far this season. This is those 11 seconds are the best the Panthers have felt this season, and they haven't felt that good since the scrum in the corner at the end against Edmonton.
Oh, that corner.
No, but those 11 seconds. I'm talking about you don't get magical 11 seconds. I still remember from 30 years ago, okay, the people who they beat on the way to the finals and all of the moments of Billy Lindsay and photographs and people like those 11 seconds, a generation of Panther fans are going to remember as how you extinguish a real champion that is to be feared and that your players actually hate.
It was one of the greatest moments of my sports fandom in my life last night. I was nauseous the entire third period. I thought I was going to projectile vomit if the Lightning scored another goal and went up 3-1. And then the building was so tense. And then they score the tying goal. 11 seconds later when Seth Jones, who's my dog, by the way, when Seth Jones scores that goal and they go up 3-2, I had never been in a building that was that loud in my life.
He's not a prisoner of the moment on this stuff. He's been there for Game 6 in Ray Allen.
Yeah.
He's been there for some big South Florida things, and I believe what he's saying.
I think he speaks to the juxtaposition, though. That's what made it so loud.
Yes.
It was so quiet.
It was really tense.
The 5-minute PK that we had, that kind of got the building going a little bit more. But early in that third period, it was like, holy shit, if we lose this game, this is going to get scary.
Tampa, look, this is, no. It's not if we lose this game, this is going to get scary.
I had that in my back pocket.
No.
I had that in my back
No,
pocket.
I'm not going to let
fine.
you guys do this. No, because, I'm not going to let you do this part.
That's what he felt, though.
Roy, no, I'm going to take the feel. I'm going to take it away from him. He's not allowed to feel that. He's going to have a different feeling in a second when I'm done with this. Because Roy's all bravado, nothing to fear. And Mike Ryan's like, long series. But right up until the water starts rising on long series, do you get to, wait a minute, 2 out of 3 in Tampa?
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
All the momentum.
And so the silence, the silence in that arena, this is telling, because when you guys say that you don't fear them, no, you do. Mm-hmm. And it's right there because you know who you're playing there. It's not just that it's a playoff game. You know who you're playing.
I was so scared.
Why do you choose to go here? Like, this is a celebratory day, and you're
'Cause
trying
it's so
to make
fun.
it seem as though the Panthers had lost the game and the series is on the line.
Because
and the season's about
Tampa
to be over.
scored
Like,
2
none
goals.
of that happened, though.
Tampa scored 2 goals in 11 seconds, and I know how scared these people were. The bravado is bravado. Like, I know you have a right to be scared. That's a champion over there, too.
Well, and that should have been the Panthers' moment at that point, because not only are they up 1-0, but they just took Brandon Hagel out of the game, so the crowd is going nuts at that Ekblad hit on Hagel. John Cooper, the coach of the Lightning, is going crazy. For you? None of you saw it? None of you? And then the Lightning scored 2 goals immediately after. We were supposed to score like 3 goals in a row after that, and all of a sudden we're trailing here. And then when the Panthers took the lead, by the way, I almost passed out. I got a little too excited too quick, a little too much jumping up and down in my age. I almost passed out.
What happened? Take us there.
Well, I'm so nervous, then they score the 1 goal. Yeah! And while we're still celebrating, on the very next trip into the zone, they score again. It was so much in such a short period of time. I'm jumping up and down.
You overdosed. You overdosed on Panthers playoff hockey.
I'm a grown man, and I am jumping up and down in the aisle, all right? And I had to
You see
grab
the little floaters, the little
the stars.
flashes,
The
little
stars,
stars
yeah,
that go
of
around.
course.
You're like, oh boy, I better.
Yeah, that's like
compose myself.
I had to grab the seat, the rail in front of me because I was in the front row in my section. And I was like, all right, I don't want to fall down the stairs because then all of a sudden the headline is, South Florida national talk show host falls down the stairs in excitement.
I don't think so.
What would the headline be, Billy?
The Panthers won. I don't think there'd be any note of someone falling.
You don't think
someone takes note of that if I tumble down the
if
stairs?
Zaslow tumbled downstairs and harmed himself, anybody would say
a tweet maybe.
A tweet from
maybe.
Andy Slater?
Oh, yeah, Slater would know. Slater Scoops and the Jackson 5 obviously knows everything.
I actually had a thought last night walking down the steps to my seats. I can't believe there aren't more falls at stadiums.
All the time, right?
No, you would think once a section with all the people drinking and getting excited that there would be more falls downstairs.
Don't we have a video?
At
Don't we have video of a woman falling down somewhere? What an excellent segue by you.
Wait, you think the average is one person falling down the stairs per section per game?
That's why
obviously.
That would be a little extreme, but I think you never see it other than this lady doing it. All right, so we have a lady.
That's a sprained
She's
ankle.
got 2 beers.
This is my theory, Chris. We saw this one because she's in the camera angle. My fear always the upper deck at any baseball stadium. It's so steep. There has to be.
That's what happened here. This is like the bougie seats, so
Yeah.
it's not that steep. So
Yeah.
she got cocky. She's walking as if she's going down a little ramp right here.
It's
not a
unlimited
ramp.
drinks, too, probably. That's what's going on.
Zaslow, take us there. Put us near you, please. I want to ride this into the sky. Zaslow is a giant Panther fan. He cares about this thing in a way that's unreasonable. And I don't even know what he is feeling emotionally last night because it's hard for the Heat to feel worse than that. And I think Zaslow cares more about the Heat than he does about the Panthers.
No, I was totally okay because, I mean, the Heat, look, they could have won last night. They're not winning the series, so it's whatever, I do feel bad, though. You got to figure, Dan, right? There are plenty of sports fans down here. You're a season ticket holder to multiple teams. You have season tickets for the Heat and the Panthers, and you got to make a choice. All right, it's an elimination game. I'm going to go to the Heat. And, that happens while this is happening over in Sunrise.
Did somebody make that choice last night? Do you guys believe somebody made that choice?
Greg made that choice, it seems like.
Mean.
Right? Didn't you say Greg was
Greg
at the
Cody and
Greg was at
Amin
the
made
Heat
that
game.
choice last night.
Yeah.
It's the worst choice.
I mean, I didn't have a choice. Greg made it.
I feel like you even considered the Panthers game. As big a basketball guy as there is, even you were like, you know what? That game's way more interesting.
I was shaking last night after they took the lead. The Panthers, like I said,
it was a headache game.
I'm not being hyperbolic. It was really one of the most fun sports experiences of my life.
I can probably count
that third period.
on one hand the amount of times where you're screaming so much that you leave with a splitting headache. I left last night with a splitting headache.
I hate to do this. I don't want to do this, but Zaz kind of seems like a bit of a front runner here. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, a big Heat guy, and then all of a sudden, Heat are going to get eliminated.
Crazy.
Big Panther fan. Here he is, Panther jersey, #1 Panther fan today. Zazzle Panther jersey over here. Don't see any Heat clothes. You have Heat clothes on every day.
Wait,
all
they
of a
actually wear
sudden,
Heat clothes. They were lost by 1,000 last
all of a
night.
sudden, last year the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, and big Panther fan over here, guy. Big Panther guy. Oh, the Heat are going to eliminate it. Oh, who's not there for the Heat? His lifelong team.
I've been shouting
Since
about
last
how
year.
great hockey
Since
is.
last year, as far as I can tell.
For 20 years
No,
in this market,
I don't think
and
so.
nobody cares.
Yeah, if
all
a
right?
tree falls in a forest, you know what I mean?
Well, that's not my fault.
Well, I'm just saying, all of a sudden, last year, Panthers go on, they win the Stanley Cup, and boom, we get a Panthers jersey. Today, here we are. Boom, Mr. #1 Panthers fan. Greatest
You're
moment
wrong.
of my sporting life. Panthers.
You're wrong.
Regular season game.
You're wrong.
Oh, first round of the playoff. Great. Did you forget what the Heat did for you?
You're wrong.
Those 4 years?
You're wrong. And-
No, I'm
and
not.
if-
I'm
if
right.
you- if
No,
you
you're
keep
wrong.
This up, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
I'm right. All of a sudden, here, Mr. #1, Stanley C. Panther, in the studio today. Where's Bernie?
I don't
Where's
know where Bernie is.
Exactly right.
Cancun.
You betrayed Bernie.
Team doesn't deserve to go to Cancun.
What a great show that is. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're right, Billy. You're right. Zaslow comes in here in costume today, and it suddenly becomes...
It's not a costume. This attire.
Bet the tag's still on it.
How dare you?
You'll return it if they lose in the next round and go right back to all your old Heat gear. How much more Heat gear is there in that closet than Panther gear?
It's a little bit more, but
there are
Panthers
30-year-old T-shirts from the Heat.
That's true.
There's
but
a
Panthers are
family
creeping.
festival in 1991 that you still have a T-shirt from.
That's the year they lost by 68.
To Cleveland as well.
Billy, you are so right about this, though. Zaslow...
I hated to say that, by the way.
I know it hurts you. But those 11 seconds, Mike Ryan, I want to go back to the fighting that you did. You came in here and you were elbowing everybody about Marchand, about Ekblad.
You're on board now. You better be on
No,
board.
there was some chirping. There was in the meeting before the show, Mike Ryan accused others of chirping at him about Marchand because Mike Ryan says Marchand did not have a good game last night.
It's excellent. Like he's been this entire series so far. You're nuts. You're nuts.
He's been excellent the entire
Yeah,
series?
he has been excellent.
The
All
entire
right, Mike.
series?
Yeah,
he definitely
he has been.
hasn't been bad.
You're
like,
nuts.
If you want to say he's been fine, I'll
You're
give
a
you
nuts
that.
man.
We're making this about us.
You're a nuts man.
We need to make this about the Panthers.
You're a
This is
nuts
not about
man.
us.
Look, I'll stack my record about admitting I was wrong up against anyone in this show.
Good.
Udonis Haslem and the Miami Heat make a magical run to the ninth. Well, Udonis was on the bench for most of it, but I apologize directly to his face. All right? I apologize to people's faces. That's what I do. Hey, Jalen Hurts, I got that one wrong. My hand up. All Brad Marchand has to do for me to not call him a bad hockey player is be consistently a good hockey player. And yeah, if you want to chirp me via text, the once every 4 games a guy gets a point, go right ahead. He's overrated. I'd rather have Mackey out there. It's fine. Be a better player. I'll shut up. But he's not a good player right now.
But Maurice, after the game last night, early in that third period, when we were down, guess who was on the bench getting the guys up? Who did he call out specifically after the game? Marchand.
I would hope
he
so.
said that point,
I would hope
that
so.
assist to Lundell was nice, but his real value last night was in that third period, building up the team. And there is value. Like,
yeah, no, it's an insult. It's an insult for one of the the greatest players in the history of the Bruins organization. Like, you're an energy guy now, but he better.
He's a bench guy. He's
Okay,
always been
cool.
that way
Like
for
that.
them.
Bring that. That's what
You're
we
a
need.
nuts man.
He's been saying it. He's been saying that you're nuts. Well, he's been chirping. This is what happened, okay? Because I feel like things have gotten too escalated too early. I said this last week. You don't open with Queens of the Stone Age. Like the Lightning are scary, and the Panthers had an enormous 11 seconds last night. And one of the coolest things about this hockey team, okay? It's empirical. They're better in the third period than everyone else. And so to take out the Lightning that way with 3 goals, 2 of them in 11 seconds, you can make the argument that that's as good as that building can ever feel because everyone knew what you were doing, who you were doing it to, and the stakes. And it's just the first round.
It's a little hyperbolic. Matthew Tkachuk sent them to a Stanley Cup final with a walk-off.
Boston series game 6.
They won the Stanley Cup when everybody's heart was in their throats for an entire game. In terms of the juxtaposition, though, it was obvious watching that game on television how dead that barn was for most of the game. It was a bad crowd.
I don't agree with that.
It didn't translate.
He watched it on TV, Zaz.
I watched it on TV.
I was there, and I'm not disagreeing with Mike. I was there. It didn't feel great early in the game.
I mean, it was tense in the third period, yes, but I don't agree with that.
Zaz is
overall.
used to Heat crowds, which are notoriously bad crowds. So it
Bad
wasn't
juice.
that bad.
For a place that I know can get lively, I think the last 2 games have largely been like bad
juice.
atmospheres, but then the moment happens, and then 11 seconds later,
We can turn it on, though.
Seth Jones puts that goal in, and it's as loud as I've ever heard
Jones,
that
my
building
dog.
on television.
Cat.
Zaz, I don't know if you saw what's going on First Take over here. Your coworker, Stephen A, said something I'm assuming you agree with.
He
now
is
that
my
you're a big
coworker.
#1 Panther fan. He said it's time for Pat Riley to go.
Oh, please.
To move on is what he said.
Oh, please.
And I'll tell you what, you don't open with Queens of the Stone Age, but you sure as shit don't close with Pearl Jam.
Oh, he's so mad about that.
They should be arrested.
He's so mad about
They should be
that.
arrested.
He came in here today saying bleep Pearl Jam.
How dare you?
I'm done with them. I'm done with them. I'm done with them. You went to that Thursday show, and you and I texted
I did,
about
and it was great. It was a
the
lot of fun.
Thursday show?
Yeah, of course it was.
For maybe a super fan like you. Like,
Okay.
To me, it was an amalgamation of the Pearl Jam songs I've been skipping for 30 years.
That's on you, dog.
I guess.
Cat.
No, it's on them because I saw the set list from Saturday, and the set list from Saturday looked incredible.
Saturday, maybe the greatest show I've ever been to.
That's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Maybe the best show I've ever been to.
Thursday
Saturday
was one of the most disappointing concerts I've ever been to. They sounded fine.
He
and
closed
they played
with a
couple of good
ballad.
songs.
You can't close with a
Dan,
ballad.
you're
so
be the
bad.
arbiter. Do you agree with Mike's assessment?
I agree that Mike's assessment is because he's rage-filled with jealousy that he went the wrong night. Like that's what.
Look,
them's the breaks.
Look, I went to Talladega. I made the choice to go to Thursday. I even get the decision. If you're playing 2 nights, as someone that travels around and watch Jack White, and the experience is like, oh, I watch a different set list every day, but it was such a disappointing, dull set. It's for the hardcore fans, and I was there apparently on Hardcore Fan Night. I would have thought that would have been night 2, and they played like all the songs that you'd recognize from Thursday, the handful of them. They still played on Saturday, so I just wasted my time on Thursday. It was just, I could have used that to rest. I'm tired. I was at WrestleMania, then I was going to Talladega, and now I'm going to Akamba. I could have used the rest. Eddie Veteran Company just wasting my damn time.
My son Jordan, who I took Thursday, as opposed to my son Corey, who came with us on Saturday, Jordan was upset.
Oh my God!
He was upset.
They were
He was upset.
they were 2 completely different shows.
He was upset when he saw the set list.
And Mike Ryan went the wrong night.
Yeah, fair enough. But they could have had a better night. That's not an option. I just want to make, if it's me, because I went to a wrong concert, let me know. But I kind of feel like they just did what they wanted to and did a self-indulgent set and played to hardcore fans, and I'm not one of those.
I feel like when you go to a concert and you get a bad set list, that's sort of like when you go to the zoo and all the animals are hiding under their shelters, and you're like, I was here, I know they're supposed to be there, but it doesn't feel like I got them.
Watching women's sports with sports writer Kate Fagan.
Dan, where to start here? I mean, I will surprise some people by saying that I went into the game rooting for LSU. Maybe Moki on the side, but falling in love with the joy with which this LSU team played. I mean, it was just unbridled enthusiasm that they were caught in this moment. Even Carson, 21 points in the first half, banking in that 3 at the end. I was texting Jess throughout the game. I was actually kind of teary-eyed at the way that they were just living inside that moment. You don't see that often. There's a lot of other places we can go, though, about like why I was rooting for LSU and
but teary-eyed. Teary-eyed,
seriously, because you just like the more we do off the looking glass, the more I pay attention to the history of the game. There has been this disconnect and between like we tell the story on off the looking glass about Cheryl Miller playing for Pat Summitt in 1984, and Pat Summitt really struggling with Cheryl Miller in the opening days of that relationship because Cheryl Miller played with the similar unbridled enthusiasm, doing cartwheels after beating Pat Summitt's Tennessee team when she was playing for Southern California, and Pat Summitt taking objection to that because she was that kind of farm girl from Tennessee who had the stoicism. And then you fast forward, whatever we are, 40 years to this final, and you're seeing a similar thing play out. You have an LSU team that is playing with this kind of black joy, and then you have an Iowa team. Not that they don't have joy, but they kind of carry themselves in a different way. And if you're paying attention to this whole season and then this NCAA tournament, you had a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, people in my life who had never texted me about women's basketball before saying, I'm obsessed with Iowa and Caitlin Clark. And, there's a small part of that where you're like, well, okay, you're feeling very safe and comfortable rooting for what is essentially like an all-white 5 starting lineup. And that is a thing that has played out in the history of not just women's basketball, of course, but you saw it on full display. And so I was getting teary-eyed because I just loved the way those LSU players, like that moment wasn't in that first half. It didn't feel like it was like about Carson. It was just like she was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? I'm just like being blessed with this beautiful moment. And I just really loved that.
When you say teary-eyed, though, as a former athlete, is it because you knew what those ladies were experiencing, connected like that, and getting to experience the best things that sports offers?
Yeah, because you rarely play for a team where you really feel like everyone wants everyone else to succeed. And when you see that being played out, when you see Angel Reese get 2 fouls in the first half, and obviously Iowa had its own foul trouble, so this wasn't limited to LSU, but their best player relegated to the bench in the biggest game of her career, and yet her jumping for joy and essentially almost tackling teammates who hadn't played much. I mean, Carson, I think, what was the stat, Jess? She had scored 11 points in the first 5 games of the NCAA tournament. You just know what it feels like to have when teammates are just, it's for a second, it is not about them. It is about whatever moment you're in. And it is rare as an athlete that you feel what Carson felt, which was, I mean, she does a heat check in the final seconds of the first half and banks in a 3. I mean, she didn't miss a shot in the first half. And that is, you don't get that very often in sports. You don't feel it, you don't live it. And I just love when people actually have joy inside those moments instead of pretending that they knew the moment was coming, because you don't know when those moments are coming.
Explain to me the reasons, whether it's the men's game one and done, portal, no stars, no familiarity with a college man's team of people who are there for 4 years winning, so you get to know them. Explain to me why it is that the women's game was doing bigger numbers ratings-wise by leaps and bounds than NBA games. Never mind the men's college game than NBA games.
It felt, well, one, we already touched on it. I mean, is it helpful that you have this like easy entry point in Caitlin Clark? Yeah. I mean, that's probably accounting for a lot of people walking in the door and being like, oh, okay, I see this Iowa team. I can relate to them. That's a huge piece of it. But some of it is like the most simple thing possible, which is ESPN put the games on TV. And then not only that, but they actually put storytelling around the game. I mean, I don't know how many times we've, throughout the history of the women's game, been like, I use the metaphor, and I've heard somebody else use this, of like, when you're running on a treadmill, you want to warm up and then you get into it and then it cools down. And women's college basketball has always been like, you got to hit the treadmill running full speed because there's no pregame, there's no postgame. The second the buzzer goes off, they have you off to, like
the XFL.
I don't want to trash. Thank you very much, Jess. I'm like thinking of what sport I can name.
Literally the XFL earlier this season, they went straight from a ACC tournament game, I think, straight into XFL with no recap, nothing.
I mean, so it's a.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Dan?
Wait a minute. We're going to do this to Amin again, where we're putting him in the bad spot of Andrew Santino is watching and he has to do his weekend observations.
Is Andrew Santino watching right now?
At home, perhaps, because this is live and we're putting you in the position to perform Stugotz's bit.
I want to give a little look behind the scenes here. Last week, Santino came on with us, did great improv. He was so good at improv, he actually didn't even hear, but he could just see what was going on. And then we went to him as if he heard, and he made it seem like, I'm telling you, Lewis told me after that interview, he didn't even hear weekend observations, but he was still so good on his feet that none of us noticed.
He is the yes and king. And I tried to do yes and the next day, and everyone stared at me like, what do you mean, like an elephant? Like it was the worst improv ever, and I felt so ashamed.
He seems like someone that watches, right, Andrew Santino?
Yeah, yep. He does. He's a sports guy. He does like sports. Bobby, not so much. But Santino, yes. All right. Dan, weekend observations presented by Miller Lite. Dan, this league was made for these moments. Tim Hardaway getting hit on the arm. Luka Doncic getting tripped. and referees swallowing their whistle in the biggest moments, only to then come out after the game in the 2-minute report to say, whoops, our bad. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, the NBA games getting ruined by officiating are back.
It is crazy. We've already had a couple of our bad at the end of the game. The whole series was decided by our bad.
Nothing says Knicks-Pistons playoffs like a 94-93 rock fight. J.B. Bickerstaff leads the league in bickering. You can't spell J.B. Bickerstaff without bicker.
That's true.
Does no one else think it's weird that a coach for another team, in this case Chauncey Billups, was sitting front row cheering for a team he doesn't coach?
That's a good point. Good observation.
Also a good observation by you that Bickerstaff begins with bicker.
Yep. The Pistons wanting a physical game, only to then complain about not getting foul calls. You know what they say? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Or the Stugotz is strong in the Pistons, either or. I did not think we would see a more pathetic game than Game 1 of OKC Memphis. But congratulations, Miami Heat.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
The H in Miami Heat stands for how embarrassing.
Yeah.
That 3% chance at Cooper Flag
Yep.
doesn't sound too bad right now.
That's right.
Yeah. Jeremy talking about the Heat. Lipstick on a pig. Tyler Hero saying we're not going down 4-0. Hey, Tyler, think again. And while you're at it, enjoy Cancun. Big 5-0 run by Miami to close the game, though.
To keep him under 60. Do we have that Whittingham? Do we have the Whittingham betting slip that we were promising from earlier? Because it is hard to find this. A live bet he made on the Miami Heat plus 57 and a half.
You know what they say, good teams win.
Plus juice. You
Great
can get that
teams.
at.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I told them frame that.
That is a work of art right there.
Like, can we fax that to the Heat front office? Just fax it. I want old wax paper being faxed of that betting slip.
Hey, Mike, nobody beats the Heat by 60 on their home court in the playoffs. Nobody. Culture. For anybody who thinks going in the 5th round will humble Shadour Sanders, must not know who Shadour Sanders is. I don't know what's worse for Shadour Sanders, falling in the draft or still somehow ending up on the Browns. Cleveland Browns drafting 2 quarterbacks. You know what they say? If you draft 2 quarterbacks, you drafted none. The Browns have Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, Shadour Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. All for Joe Flacco to remind them who's who. Joe Cool. Blue Jays pitcher, Kevin Gossman, getting ejected and then tripping down the stairs. Insult to injury. Why doesn't that happen more often?
I guess people do trip downstairs.
Yeah. Dan, you know what Naz Reid does for the Timberwolves?
Hits big threes.
He does it all. There are some nights where if you didn't know any better, you'd assume Naz Reid was the best player in NBA history. Naz Reid or Al Horford, shot for your life.
I saw Al Horford the other day dive into the stands for no good reason, just to do it at 37.
Mike, why was there a Naz Reid banner hanging at WrestleMania? You saw that, right?
Because he's Naz Reid. He deserves it. He's great.
I know you think that that's where this Venn diagram meets, but I actually don't follow basketball.
Zaz, I'll tell you why. Because there's some nights where if you didn't know any better, you'd assume Naz Reid was the best player in NBA history.
Every time I do watch the T-Wolves secretly, like, he's a good player, right? Like, he's really good.
He's young Al Horford.
He's impactful.
He's young Al Horford, I'm telling you. Let's see. Travis Hunter, the rare first-round pick that feels like your team is getting 2 first-round picks. Congratulations to our engineer, Daniel Gonzalez Quevedo. That's his name? On his
GQ.
On his wedding this past weekend. Danny GQ.
Everybody calls him GQ.
Yeah.
We had an office wedding around here. Billy, do you have any opinions on office weddings? How do you feel about this?
How do I feel about office weddings? I think Danny GQ is a very nice guy, and he did a thing where he put his save the date on the fridge, and he said, if anyone wants to come, let me know. And I think that it was a nice gesture. And then about 40 people from the office showed up, and I don't think that that's what the intention was. I think I felt bad because I saw everybody bonding and having a good time, and he's such a nice guy that he's like, yeah, of course I want everyone to go, but I've had a wedding. I know it's pricey, and from what I hear, it was 2 tables of coworkers.
No way.
That's a lot.
That's too much.
That's a lot of people. Sometimes you just say, you know what? I love you. I hope you have a magical day. I know you don't actually want me there. It's just an added expense. I hope everyone has a great time.
Billy, you know what they say? When you have 2 tables of coworkers, you don't have any.
That was supportive, though. That was loving, a loving gesture to celebrate love.
I love love.
I mean, but also, like, with this crew, they'll go anywhere there's an open bar.
Look at that. Dangerous Nights crew.
I think with this crew, if you said, guys, end of times, you're going to hell with Art Briles, but there's an open bar, half of them would sign up for it. An eternity in hell with an open bar, they'd sign up. Not a doubt in my mind.
You cannot make an open invitation to people in this office and not expect to get really hurt on the bill, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it's an open bar. You pay for it on the front end. Yeah. You know, to pay for plate and then +1 situation.
Yeah, but it's not like they didn't bring gifts.
2 tables.
The gifts.
The gifts game is always a situation where, like, you start doing a thing where you're like, well, I know what this costs, and plus minus here on the value of this, George Foreman grill. I can get this for like $79. It costs me $200 to feed you and your +1 here. I don't know that we're breaking even, Jack.
R.I.P. George Foreman.
Yeah, man. That was a sad one.
To GQ, on behalf of Dan, blank check. On behalf of me, you're welcome. In honor of GQ's wedding, top 5 athletes and entertainers who connote a wedding. OLI, Darius Garland. OLI, Usher. OLI, Chapel Roan. Number 5, Derek Favors.
What did I miss on Darius Garland? Is a garland something? What is a garland? Forgive me, I don't know what a garland is.
Maybe it's a Darius.
Is it a Darius thing?
What is the joke?
Is it what they call
Darius
the thing?
Garland?
Garland is a wreath of flowers and leaves worn on the head or hung as a decoration.
What's a Darius?
I love love.
That's a good question.
Austin Centric got one of those.
What's the thing that's around like the thigh?
Oh,
garter belt?
Garter belt. Yes, it's not Darius garter belt.
No. It's close though.
Oh, you're not talking about a garter belt. You're talking about the thing that's tossed.
No,
right?
that's a bouquet.
Yeah.
That's Darius bouquet.
But you also toss a garter belt.
Yes, you do.
I had a teacher, Ed Garland.
That's interesting.
He was a harness racer.
No, thank you. More information,
yeah,
please.
I mean,
it just
more
the
interesting.
tail
Like these
now
are
on
just-
spools, and we really get to enjoy the tapestry.
Layers of an onion.
Yes, just crazy where that story ended.
I've always tried to avoid catching the thing at a wedding because I don't want the uncomfortable, like now you're doing a thing with some woman you barely know where you're like reaching up her leg. It's just like
That's Greg Cody's humor, to just have a name and say I had a teacher who had that name and go off wandering
It's true.
to
Popping
an
apart.
uninteresting place.
Greg also harness racer one
Thank you.
time.
You can't save
Remember?
it. You can't save that you had a teacher named Ed Garland and it contributed nothing to the conversation. In fact, while I'm at it,
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for adding nothing.
I had a teacher named Ed Garland. Useless. I don't care.
I'm
Nobody
leaving you
cares.
wanting more. You're not getting more about
I don't
Eddie
want
Garland.
more.
He was a harness racer. What is that?
I'm not telling you about popping apart. Not gonna get it.
Dan, I think you kind of steamrolled something else that happened where Chris said, I've never liked the garter belt thing. I don't want to reach up on a strange woman.
I don't like this thing at weddings.
I don't like it either.
Chris.
No, it's not.
It's
It's whoever catches the bouquet and the person who catches the thing that the guy throws, then all of a sudden you're like, you guys, have you ever been to a wedding before? What are
I
you guys
have not
talking
had
about?
this experience at a wedding.
They throw
No,
a
I've
bouquet.
never
Whoever
reached
catches
up
the
someone
bouquet
else's
sits down
leg.
on the thing.
No,
Yes.
that's not true.
The way he
Yes.
initially described it is that the strange woman is
Is
his wife.
is his wife.
Hey,
It's
it's
like-
not a strange woman that you're
Yeah, you're
rubbing up
wrong.
leg
The
on.
wife sits down, and the groom then
there's-
gets the garter
No,
belt.
then there's the extra stuff with the bridesmaids and the like.
depends
No,
on
the
the
bouquet
wedding.
is
Sometimes
like
the
if you
bouquet
catch
person
that, you're
and-
the next to get
those
married,
are two different
right?
things.
No, and then the lady, then the guy flicks something. There's like a man catches
guy
something, and
flicks
then the
what?
it flicks.
Have you ever been to a wedding?
How is this worse than Eddie Garland?
No.
Like,
I'm
So
no
Jeremy
Chris.
Hop in there hit the
No,
beats.
I'm not gonna leave Chris alone on this. I believe that he's right. That these are two different things. There's the throwing of the bouquet over the shoulder, and
Yes.
that's the next alleged bridesmaid that will get married.
Yes.
And then there is also something with the garter and the garter being thrown.
Yes,
I've just been at weddings where all of a sudden, like a random guy at the wedding is like crawling up the floor of like one of the bridesmaids who caught the bouquet.
I mean, maybe that's a wedding in prison.
I mean, I guess that's a dealer's choice. But just to be clear, the strange woman whose leg you were creeping up on to get the
It's your
garter
wife.
belt, that was your wife.
Your wife.
Yeah, man.
I didn't do that at my wedding. As I said, I don't like that. At my wedding, I'm like, we're not doing that.
Oh,
You're
really?
not a stranger.
You
did
did the little slingshot motion like you've done it before.
It seemed like you slingshotted some garter.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think back, I think they did the thing where I was blindfolded, and then they replaced my wife with one of my
It was a
groomsmen.
strange
They
woman.
pranked
And all of
you.
a sudden, I grabbed
pranked
my buddy's leg, and I'm like, this is not my wife's
Yeah.
leg.
All right, so that is a very personal story.
Number 4.
Just this hairy leg he's peeling up to get a
That's actually a
garter
good
belt.
gag. Good gag.
This doesn't happen at every wedding.
Somebody looks like DJ Khaled.
Number 4, Franco Harris. The Immaculate Reception. Number 3, Jonas I Do. Number 2, Jonah Bride. Number 1, Michael Jordan.
Kevin Love would make an appearance here somewhere.
Rings.
Anybody
Former
Dan.
Marlin Jonah Bride, huh?
Yeah. I'm digging deep today. Hey, don't look now. Here come the Rays. If the NFL draft was based on names and names alone, a quarterback named Jackson Dart would go first overall every time.
That's correct.
Sean Payton telling NFL teams they should beware of snubbing Shadour Sanders while also not drafting Shadour Sanders. Sean Payton, the Stugotz is strong in you. How long do you think before Shadour Sanders can recite all 143 players drafted before him? He's got to have it down by now, right?
No.
No?
No, that's a lot. 143 is too many to memorize in just a couple of days.
I don't know, man. What else has he been doing?
143 is too many. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Could you memorize 143 names in 2 days?
Dan. That didn't sound right. Let me do it again. Dan, do you know what this Clippers Nuggets series has?
It has everything.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Good job. The last time the Pistons won a home playoff game, I was a video coordinator. George W. Bush was president, and Apple hadn't opened the App Store yet. Hey, NFL draft picks, can we stop trying to wear retired jersey numbers? They're retired. Get over it. Pick a new number and build your own legacy. How about that?
That's right.
Good on LT for telling him to F off.
No, he didn't.
He
no, he
tell
didn't.
him.
He didn't tell him
to F off.
What
He
did he tell
just
him?
told him no, but he said, I'll be back behind you every 2 steps. I'll be 2 steps behind you every step of the way.
How do we feel about the Warren Moon, Cam Ward thing? They brought Warren Moon out to hand it over, which I guess is a nice touch. And also, a bit of context, Warren Moon never played in Tennessee.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
An Oiler.
Huge update for Chris. Apparently, according to masterclass.com, which is teaching about the garter toss, sometimes indeed the groomsman who catches the garter will place it on the bridesmaid who caught the bouquet. That's the next
All I was
step.
saying, guys, I've seen that happen before.
Sometimes.
occasionally, yeah.
Back off.
Never seen it.
But that's good.
But apparently it's a thing.
That's good if you're single and horny.
That's why I always feel uncomfortable by it.
It depends on who
if you
catches
remember,
it.
I started by saying I don't like that because
Well, that's
it's like
why-
all of a sudden I'm like, well, I don't know this woman.
Respectful.
And because she caught the bouquet, I'm now like, my wife's over. Sorry, honey, I'm gonna go climb up
A
this lady's
feminist.
dress and.
But that's why it's optional. See, like
You're an ally.
I once caught the garter belt when I was 8 years old. Like,
That's uncomfortable.
You leave it as an optional thing.
Hey, Cleveland Browns, Hard Knocks, collision course. There's nothing more insulting in sports than calling the last pick of the draft Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. When Todd McShay talks NFL draft, you know what you do, Dan? You listen. I felt bad for Dylan Gabriel. It wasn't until he got picked that everyone finally went, what the hell is going on? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Excellent work, Amin. Diana was right on the George Kittle contract. He has signed an extension for $40 million guaranteed. Diana Rossini's information is as good as anybody's. I wanted to ask the group here. Jalen Hurts sat out the White House, but Saquon went to the White House at a side-picking time. People can talk about unity, talk about sports. Saquon Barkley making a decision, and during a very popular time for Saquon Barkley, to go to a White House that has been dividing the country. What are you looking at me like that for?
I don't think it's the White House visit so much as the hell yeah, I'm gonna go golf with Trump.
Right.
It was just he had like a tweet that was doubling and tripling down.
Well, he did more than the White House. He hung out with him the day before. I think they started a round of golf. He flew on Marine One with him, and then they had the White House the next day. And then they had lunch. There was photos together. So people were not happy with the level of palling around he seemed to be doing.
Right. I think the White House visit, for the most part, I know people have, on different types of history skipped it because of political differences. But for the most part, I think people are accepting, hey, when you win a championship, the tradition is you go to the White House, you meet the president, you take your picture, whatever.
But also, no one says we're going to meet the president. They say we're going to the
White House. Yeah, it's the extracurricular itinerary around the White House trip that I think everyone's going nuts about, and the tweet that we have on the screen right now where he's doubling and tripling down on it.
And I would just tell people who tire of politics with their sports that what is happening presently in this country, as you get offenses after offenses, that it's just reporting that the Patriots plane is deporting people, and we're arresting immigration judges, and we're doing stuff that when sports is used to sanitize power and a presidency, I will just tell you that is something that my grandparents and my parents talked about from Cuban times on how it is that freedom gets threatened by propaganda, misinformation, and somebody who doesn't know he's being used as a tool because he's a Super Bowl champion, being used as a tool without realizing he's being used as a tool when the White House sends out the pictures to sanitize what is a laundering of freedom that no American should be okay with.
Dan, it's not unlike the whole Saudi Arabia live golf thing or Qatar with the World Cup where everyone was clutching pearls, like how can we allow them to use sports to kind of sanitize their image? And I'm like, where do you think they learned it from?
It's the same thing.
They learned it from here.
But that's been normalized, and now this will be normalized as we talk third terms on a presidency. I think it's clear to all that if in sports you make some choices to hobnob with this particular power, you are selling a piece of your soul.
Can I throw this out there, by the way, as we speak about third-term presidencies? I feel like the Republicans are opening a box they don't want to open. Because who was the main guy who was like, I wish I could have voted for him a third time? You open that third term, guess what? Now all of a sudden the Democrats don't have a leadership issue. They don't have, who's our guy? Barry, come back in, puts on the cape, saves America again.
Oh, no, it'll be tied to the 2020 election. See, look, there wasn't like they'll open the door for Don, but close the door on Barry real quick.
Ron McGill is joining us now. He has avoided politics. People here locally have tried to get him to do some things that he would obviously win, but he does not want in this dirty game. So we'll just talk about with the animals with him and the conversation that the internet has been having the last few days. Ron, we've been having a forum about
gorilla
with you for many years.
We need to make a correction. This Patriot story is from 2022. That's a different administration.
Okay, my bad.
Stop reading the internet.
Okay, my bad.
That's a fine, right?
Yes, that's got to be a big fine, obviously. Yes, I hadn't seen that story.
Thank you, Billy, for doing the research on that.
Yes, thank you, Billy. Can I ask you, Ron, have a lot of people been asking you about that 100 people versus a gorilla?
Yeah, I just did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine about it.
Excuse me.
Wow.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. I just asked him, though. Is that fair to do to him?
Yes, it is, because we asked him, have a lot of people been asking you about that? He could have just said, yeah, a lot of people, I just did an interview. But he said, I did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. Ever heard of it?
Is that what he did?
That's what he did.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't say, have you talked to anybody else but us about it? So, yeah.
I don't know. We didn't need to know. Is it Rolling Stone magazine?
I feel,
Ever
though,
heard of it?
Ron, I feel like I could predict, though, that humans always overestimate their ability against animals, correct?
Yes and no. I mean, the answer I gave them was one that I think a lot of people didn't believe. I said, yeah, if you got 100 men in their 20s in good shape that are unified and willing to sacrifice a few, they're going to win.
Okay, so can you explain to me, though, is it 100 men at once that we're talking about?
However
it's got to be 100 men at once. Yes.
I mean, 100
That's
men
got
at
to
once.
be 100 men at once.
I think the thing is what you said, Ron, which is willing to sacrifice. Because the reality is 100 men at once, the first 2 or 3, they're getting torn apart in the most graphic way. You're telling me the other 97 are like, no, let's keep going. No, you see a man's head get ripped off. You're like, maybe not.
I made it very clear in my interview. Listen, you got to be able to go in there and realize the first few guys are basically on a kamikaze mission. Okay, they're on a kamikaze mission. But understanding that, if you're willing, if this is your goal, if you're fighting for the greater good, even though a gorilla is a gentle giant, is a vegetarian, and would never be in this predicament and would run away from 100 men if he saw it coming at him. But people want to insist, well, what if he couldn't run away? And you had this fight, and who's going to win this fight? Well, okay, at the end of the day, the 100 men are going to survive. The gorilla is not. Now, some of those 100 men, there's going to be collateral damage, okay? There's going to be bites and arterial bleeding. There's going to be broken necks. There's going to be suffocation. There's going to be, horrible concussions that are going to lead to fatal brain bleeds. So there's going to be death there. But at the end of the day, if all the men realize, okay, we're going to sacrifice, they're going to end up at least asphyxiating the gorilla. If they just all pile around him like a big, huge straitjacket, restrict his ability to open his arms, to extend his arms, and go at gut punches, real good abdominal, trauma, that gorilla is going to end up not surviving.
Ron, how many men would die?
I would say probably 10 to 15 are going to lose it.
And why do you think the other 85 are going to keep going? I want you to sort of measure the strength that we're talking about here and how violent all of this would be, because I don't know how this works as a coordinated effort. 100 people getting there is like 50 people getting there. It doesn't make much of a difference. He's going to tear through a lot of people.
Not through a lot. He's going to tear through a few. Don't get me wrong. He's going to tear through a few. But at the end of the day, 100 men. Now, if you told me 20 men, I'd say, no, the gorilla's going to take them.
What's the number?
But, I'm saying the number's probably going to be closer to 50.
That's it, guys. 50 guys. Let's go.
Going to be closer to 50. And this is men, again, going in with this kamikaze attitude, saying, listen, some of us are going to die, but this is for the greater good. I made that very clear because in reality, like you're saying, Dan, the first few guys get their freaking heads ripped off and bitten out through the skull. Those next guys are going, I'm out of here. I'm done. But if they remain committed, they will triumph.
Well, what do those 50 guys have to? What do those 50 guys have to look like? Like, they can't look like me. Is it 50 Brock Lesnar's?
And it doesn't make a difference if it's 50 MMA guys versus 50 of us.
No, it makes a difference.
No, as long as it can't be 50 90-year-olds. But 50 guys in their 20s in reasonably good shape.
59-year-olds would get ugly.
The gorilla doesn't have much stamina, does it?
No, it doesn't. That's the other thing. It's just going to become exhausted after a while. You basically exhaust the animal, and people keep thinking, it's got the bite, the head is very, but the abdomen of that animal could you can give it some pretty traumatic injury that would lead to internal bleeding that could lead to its death. The eyes, of course, are always susceptible to things. And just the bottom line is asphyxiation. You get everybody on top of this gorilla where he can't breathe and he's fighting, he loses his breath, he'll pass out, and he'll eventually die.
Rope-a-dope.
Ron, do you have a pen and a paper by you by any chance or no?
I do.
All right, great, because I have a hypothetical that one of my friends, a firefighter, Lewis, asked me. So before you kind of just throw it off, cast it aside, remember, he's a first responder, so you're disrespecting first responders. All right, so Ron, write this down. You or me, whoever it is stuck in an arena with the following, okay? 50 hawks, 10 crocodiles, 3 brown bears, 15 wolves, a hunter with a rifle, 7 buffalo, 10,000 rats, 5 gorillas, and 4 lions. You need to pick 2 to defend you, and the others attack you. Which ones would you choose to survive an hour?
I like this.
Let's do it again.
I got 50 hawks, 10 crocs, 3 bears, 15 wolves, man with a rifle, 10,000 rats, and 5 lions?
Yeah, did you put the buffaloes in there?
Oh, no. How many of those?
7 buffaloes. Also, the 3 brown bears. I don't know if there's a difference between the brown bear and the black bear, but I know you told us one of them you say hey bear, and the other one you can't do anything.
But the question is basically, do you take the man with the rifle?
Well, you pick 2 to help you survive for an hour, but everyone else is attacking.
But you're worried about the rats. You're worried about the number of rats and the rifle.
I would think this is also like Royal Rumble style too, right? Where they'll start taking each other out, so you don't have to worry too much. Yeah.
Yeah, but 10,000 rats.
But the rats, I mean,
Are they just going to run by, or are they going to immediately attack? Are they hungry rats? Does it matter?
Yeah, if you're in a room with 10,000 rats.
This is the same scenario as 100 men and a gorilla. I don't want to face 10,000 rats. Yeah, I can take out probably 100 of them, maybe 200 of them. But if they're coming at me like a freaking scene out of Willard and they're all biting and gnawing, I'm going to die.
But would they be?
So that sounds like you're drafting the rats to protect you, right?
Yes, I'm drafting the rats to protect me.
I want the rats too on my team.
Yeah.
So the rats and the rifle is what you're taking, and say bring all comers.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a rifleman, Ron. Rifles are not automatic. You'd have to reload the rifle. And do you have unlimited ammo in that situation?
Oh, well, no. I'm going with an automatic rifle.
No, okay. All right, good.
I assume that we were taking a rifleman who could shoot and would take out a number of animals.
I was thinking more so with a musket that had to be manually
So it's just me with the
loaded.
bayonet, then, is what you're giving me?
No, that wasn't an option. No bayonets involved here. Yeah, no.
No. I would go with the 10,000 rats man with a rifle. My second option with the man without the man in the rifle would be 5 lions.
What about the wolves? The wolves, they work together.
The wolves would be, they're certainly a concern because they are very teamwork oriented, right? And can wear down stamina. And there are 15 of those, which makes a difference. But
I'm not worried about the wolves.
Who would be
5 lions? 5 lions will take away 15 wolves.
Who'd be the first to go, Ron? Because now I'm thinking with these large-size animals, like the rats, they could just step on them very easily by accident, not even realizing what they're doing.
That's true, but there's 10,000 of them, Billy.
But there's 50 hawks also.
No,
hawks can go into the rafters if they want, just fly by. They can hide out.
But hawks are going to inflict puncture wounds with their talons. That's it. They're not going to. It's not going to be the beak. It's the talons that are going to hurt you. So you're going to cut up. You might lose an eye. You're going to bleed a lot. They're not going to kill you.
What does the rifleman have to do though? He's got to take out the lions first, and then the bears, and now there are wolves on his arms.
Yeah.
Oh. So wait a minute. You're telling me that you got 2 things to defend you against everything else.
That's right. Yeah, and the rats.
You're
this
selecting
is what's happening.
2 to defend
you. The thing that you have a problem with here, the
Very
rats
easy
are
to
running
follow.
all over the place. They've left the wolves alone, and now my rifleman is covered in buffalo.
If that's the case, if you're telling me I can just pick 2 to defend me against all the rest, it's not if but when you're going to die.
No, but you have to survive only 1 hour. Who keeps you alive the longest?
Well, this is the question, Ron. See, what's happened here is I've sent my rats out, and I think I'm okay, but I'm not okay because my rifleman's slow, he's old, and he's only got 8 of the animals. Now what am I doing with the rest if they're all hell-bent on killing me?
Dan, you're bringing in a lot of other factors here. You're bringing in factors.
I can't control the rats.
I'm assuming everything we're talking about here is in its prime.
Yeah.
It's the best at what it does.
I can't control the rats, though. The rats are not trainable. The rats are not attacking.
No, wait a minute. If you're having animals to protect you, you're assuming that they are trainable. For that matter, none of this thing. The guy with the rifle is going to say, hell, I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with all this shit. He's going to run away.
I'll tell you, Ron.
He can just turn to shoot you, and they're like, we're done.
I'll tell you what, though. In the 10,000, there's going to be a dud rat or 2 in the 10,000, if we're going to be honest with you.
It's 10,000.
Okay, a dud rat or 2. That still leaves 9,998.
It's 10,000 rats.
Well, okay.
50 hawks got nothing against 10,000 rats. They're just going to be flying around.
They have nothing.
And
crocs are not fast enough. Crocs are not fast enough on land. Now, we're doing this on land, I'm assuming, right? I'm not doing this in the water.
No, you're in an arena,
Yeah, we're on land, but are crocs going to chase me around? Don't I have to just run around in circles and they'll stop chasing me because they can't do that?
Yeah. Well, no. That zigzag stuff is another myth. No. But they're not going to. You're going to be able to get away from crocs on land. That's not a problem.
How do I get away from a crocodile? How do I do that? You're saying if I zigzag, it doesn't work?
I'm telling you right now. You say it's a myth. I'm zigzagging if I'm getting chased by one of those.
Or
things.
running in circles.
And you may get nailed then, Chris, because when you're zigzagging, instead of going, the croc is going in a straight line. It's going to catch you as you're zagging.
I could juke out a croc.
So it's not zigzagging. A crocodile can't actually chase us down very well, can it? If we're not running in a straight line.
Yeah. If you're running in a straight line, even then, you're not going to get chased down by a crocodile. You'll be able to outrun the crocodile in a short spurt. Okay, if a crocodile, you walk up to a crocodile, let's say 10 feet away, and you surprise it, in a short spurt, it can overtake you.
But I'll run a mile faster. Like a mile, I'll run it faster.
I'm assuming that you're going to see these crocodiles from a further distance away. I mean, what's the size of the room you're in?
It's an arena.
It's an arena, yeah.
It's an arena. So you got plenty of room to get away from crocodiles. Are the least of my concerns here. Okay.
So okay, Ron, we took the rats. We took the guy with the rifle. What's the strategy? In my mind, the rifle guy takes out the hawks first, right? Just
No. The rifle guy takes out the lions, man.
Lions
and the Bears.
Got to go, and right after that, the Bears.
But what if the wolves break into 3? There's 15 wolves, remember? What if they break it into 3 packs of 5?
This is
They
why
could
I'm
take
saying
down
I've
some
got
of
wolves
these.
on my arms on my
Yeah.
rifleman, and now I've just got a bunch of rats defending me. And now I'm proper bleeped because I don't have a rifleman anymore.
Is there any part of these animals that see one lone human being standing there and think, that's the least of my worries? And they just start attacking each other, and then you just kind of hang out in the corner, and then all of a sudden, you're the last man standing in this Royal Rumble.
I think the rats are going to dominate. 10,000.
I think they'll be bored just running around not doing anything. I don't think they're just going to go into attack mode, right?
Listen. We've got to make this decision under the assumption that the animals know that their job is to defend or to attack.
Yes.
Okay. So these rats they're trained rats that are going to defend you with everything they've got.
Yes, because otherwise, like Ron said, then the guy with the rifle might just turn around and shoot you and be like, "Oh yeah, we don't have any."
Exactly.
kin."
I'm out of here.
But the rats can't do anything
What?
for the hawks. The hawks are never going to go on the rats' level. Hawks come and start attacking you while the rats are the ground game.
Hawks can
But
hunt
the hawks
rats.
aren't going to kill you, Billy.
They
I don't
can't.
even need the
No, they're
rats.
trying to. These
They're
are
trying
trained
to.
hawks,
They're
killer
coming after
hawks. Yeah.
Can I replace one of the
can't do that.
wolves with a former Minnesota Timberwolf?
Kevin Garnett.
No, I would take Pekovic.
Oh yeah. Oh, you say he's
All
in,
right.
He's in some hot water.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta Google that one.
Organized crime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, no. Now I want him on my team. You don't want him against you.
Ron, good seeing you. Good talking to you. Thank you, sir.
Oh God, have a good day, guys.
It's exhausting for him.